totally not sarcastic.
I went all in. Like, I was trying to set up the stream,
Oh, no.
and I just heard ticking, and so I quickly pushed a button, and now I'm all in. Fantastic.
If only
Well,
that worked.
I haven't even looked at my cards. I guess I'm just gonna keep that going. King 9, four queen.
Oh.
Who is
Well, that
Borp?
guy's got a pair of kings.
All right, so Borp is that guy. All right, I guess I'm gonna go get my buy-in back. Oh God. Oh yeah, I can't win. So yeah, thanks for letting me set up the stream in the middle of a hand, guys. I blame you for that.
Sure. We'll take credit for that.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Off to a great start. Hello, everyone. I guess welcome to Random Poker because Fortnite is down. Joined by Matt and Borp.
I am. I'm not going to look at your card, Steve, but I'm going to put the link in the chat to this. So hold on. Let me go ahead and fold. I will fold while I'm doing this, so it won't matter if I end up inadvertently seeing your cards.
It will, because then you'll know how I bluff.
Oh yeah.
Actually, no, I'm not even in this hand yet, so no, it's fine. Just cheat all you want, you son of a bitch.
Oh God. What a day.
Fun times all around.
God, what a shitty movie that was. We're fresh off the recording of Full Moon Friday for Puppet Master Axis Termination. That's what it's called, right? I can never keep these straight.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but right now it feels like egregiously bad.
It's the worst Puppet Master movie I've ever seen. And that's saying something.
Not even close.
Because we've had, Puppet Master Legacy, the clip show. We've had Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys, the sci-fi travesty. I mean, there's a lot of entries that could go up there in terms of the worst Puppet Master movies, but this one there was no saving it. It was awful. And you'll hear about it on Full Moon Fridays next month, probably, when it comes out.
Are you still doing those every 2 weeks, or are we
Yes.
behind? Or okay?
No, I'm doing it every 2 weeks because we have so many shows that come out on Friday. I noticed it because I started doing the X-Files podcast with Jeremy, and I was releasing those on Fridays because that's when X-Files was originally on. And so we kind of watched them on Friday nights, and so I was like, oh, just, kind of a fun nostalgia thing for people who used to watch X-Files on Friday nights. I'd release them on Friday nights, but then we also do the Full Moon stuff on Friday nights. And I feel like there was another show or something was being released on Friday nights. We need to be better at spacing stuff out, I think.
All right, so what you need to start Full Moon Thursdays and start posting them then.
Doesn't have the same ring to it. And who knows, after watching Puppet Master Axis Termination, how much longer we'll be doing Full Moon Fridays.
No,
That's
we can't
all up in the air.
quit. We can't let the Puppet Master franchise beat us.
What Full Moon franchise are we doing after this?
Doll Man.
Doll Man? Okay, I thought you'd say Trancers. Trancers might be one that, it has entertainment value, I think.
I'll go back to, that's fine. Trancers is fine.
And there's
I'm up for Trancers.
6 or 7 Trancers movies, isn't there?
I think
there's quite a few.
Oh, more time travel bullshit. There's also a
young
doll.
Helen Hunt.
Where does Doll Man versus Demonic Toys fit into our puppet universe review?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Oh, God. What am I doing here? I'm so bad at this poker. Let's see here.
All in. Yeah. You want all in.
Who's doing that?
Not either of us.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Borp, do you have
my 300. Look at this guy. Look at me destroy this guy right here. Oh, no, he got the higher straight. Son of a bitch. Oh,
Wow.
I had 8, 9, 10 Jack Queen. Oh, God. See, I got cocky there. I got cocky, and this is what happens.
Okay, Borp, someone
But I
was
busted
wearing your
with a good
outfit, but they left, so it's fine.
Okay, that's good.
Borp, I see your character has like some cool blonde hair. Don't you think that's a little stereotypical
Yeah,
of Swedish
that's true.
people
That's
there?
true.
I think that's problematic with the blonde hair.
Borp, what is the feeling in Sweden right now that you're finally going to be part of NATO and we will not make jokes about it anymore?
Is this news? I don't want to hear
Yes.
news. Don't
right.
tell me news.
Oh, you're right. Let's not discuss topics on the live stream that we're inviting people to come and
It
chat
doesn't
about.
have to be news. It doesn't have to be news.
All right, well then you know what?
Are we not friends with one another?
I'm relying on you to provide topics.
Let's talk about why you hate the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's boring. Next. Like
Okay,
I don't have.
Okay, so anybody can say any movie is boring. There's got to be more than just that. You got to have some substance. You can't say it's boring. I could say, Shawshank Redemption is boring, therefore it sucks. Everyone
That's
would
a
laugh.
stupid opinion. Yes.
Well, exactly. Yes, you got to have a little bit more than just that's boring.
Well, I don't. I have never.
Wow, good conversation.
I have
Yes.
never once watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre and felt entertained. Like I don't.
You're not supposed to be entertained by Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You're supposed to be horrified by what you're seeing.
Okay, I'm not horrified. I'm not entertained. I don't find Leatherface to be an interesting villain. His whole redneck family is stupid.
Does it hit too close to home for being in the South?
No.
Is that why you don't like
No,
it?
I was in a different part of the South. So probably there's probably no like Tennessee Chainsaw Massacre.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just like
movie.
I don't like slashers, and so maybe that's the broader topic. Like, I give no fucks about slashers, and so any bad guy that you could just shoot and beat him if you happen to have a gun, and this is fucking America, so everyone does. Like I'm not
Texas, no
I'm not. Yeah, like how does no one in Texas hear like, hey, another dozen people got chainsawed to death. Why don't we all just get our shotguns and go to the place that we keep finding bodies and solve this problem?
It's an amazing point. Borp, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to serve as moderator for this discussion here before I eventually weigh in. Do you feel Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a slasher film?
I guess it is.
Why?
But, well,
Good conversation, guys.
Yeah, I don't know.
Look, you're the one that wanted to stream this, all right?
I'm just trying to get conversation
Okay. Well,
started.
here's the thing. I don't know if I consider it a slasher, but it gets lumped in with all those other slashers, right?
For sure. For sure. Definitely gets
that's
lumped.
mainly just because of Leatherface. But there's so much to Texas Chainsaw that's not just Leatherface. It's
Like
the
what?
whole. It's the whole family. It's the environment. It's like, and if you compare it to something like Friday the 13th, like yeah, sure, Camp Crystal Lake is very important to that franchise, but it could kind of take place anywhere. Texas Chainsaw has to take place on that farm, on that that hot, uncomfortable, in that hot, uncomfortable,
That muggy,
environment.
humid Texas summer is what you're saying.
All the fields, and yeah, I don't know. I but if it's not a slasher, then why is it?
It's a good
I
question.
guess it doesn't have to be, or you don't have to put everything into subgenres. But
And everything ultimately boils down to what people define it as, right? Some people might define a slasher as, Black Christmas or Halloween in the sense that, it's sort of that mystery person, you don't really know who's doing the killing, or even the original Friday the 13th could be labeled that as a certain way, but there's a certain aesthetic and a number of tropes that the classic slasher sort of subgenre falls into that people lump it into. I am one that actually sort of thinks that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is not a slasher film. I think some of the later sequels definitely, especially the 80s sequels, can sort of be lumped into or fit better in that sort of slasher box. I think the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is more about a feel and a tone and an atmosphere than it is sort of your standard, okay, here's Leatherface, he's running around taking down all of these different individuals. That's just me, though.
No.
I do think the remake, the Platinum Dunes remake from the early 2000s, I think it was, I think that fits a lot more into the classic idea of a slasher than the original film does. But, if this is a hot take Friday night, I would lean to Steve's. I'm not going to go as far as Steve and say the movie is just boring trash or anything like that. It's not good. I do lean towards that side of the coin that I do think it is pretty overrated. I don't think that the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a great movie by any means. I think it definitely has its, it has a reputation it is built. I cannot deny that many, many people consider it an amazing, great film. I certainly can't combat that. People feel that way. I've never felt that way. There's plenty of horror movies that I've watched. We talked about this with The Exorcist when we did our sort of review of the new Exorcist movie, and I know Jeff and Steve are big fans of the original Exorcist, and I'm like, that movie never affected me in any way. I saw it when I was a kid. I laughed during it. I thought it was funny. It never affected me like it affected many other people. Now, I can't deny that Jeff and Steve were really affected by this movie, and if they're like, the original is great because of X, Y, and Z, it's certainly a thing. That's a real thing that exists in the world, and I would never try to be like, well, you're stupid or it's dumb, blah, blah, blah. But on the other hand, I do think you can step back on a lot of these quote-unquote classic films that have garnered so many accolades over the years and question, do they actually warrant all of that stuff? And I can relate this to sort of classical Hollywood cinema, because it's the same kind of people that I've encountered in my lifetime that would say, no, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's unassailable, right? It's this great piece of cinema, whatever. Putting it on that high pedestal are also the same people that would say, oh, Citizen Kane's, that's overrated. Why? They're in their own way, they are questioning what they've been told and what they are expected to believe and accept by all of these individuals over the years, whether it's film critics and historians and, just the general zeitgeist of, film talk. I guess I'll say that, well, of course Citizen Kane is an amazingly great film, and it's incredible. It's the greatest film of all time. Is it? I don't think so. I certainly don't think so. And so I think that it's healthy for us to take a look at all of these films that we are told are great and amazing. And yes, they may be awesome movies, but do they really need to go on the pedestal that they're placed on? Why are we not allowed to question what is just, it doesn't even necessarily mean we have to go make the giant leap of, I'm questioning Texas Chainsaw Massacre's sort of position in terms of how it's viewed. I'm not going so far as saying it's a terrible movie or it's bad, but just the act of questioning whether the consensus says X film is incredible, just to question it is somehow wrong, right? It reminds me of people with like the Second Amendment. You can't even question something without it being like, oh, you hate the Constitution.
Going? Damien says he fell asleep during Citizen Kane.
Who?
A viewer, Damien. Hello.
Oh, Damien. Nice to meet you. Thank you for popping on to the channel. Stay tuned for our amazing review of Puppet Master Extermination next month. Oh, God. But you guys know what I'm saying. I'm trying to say, we should question these things and not just take them as gospel because people said so.
for sure. But I also feel like
Holy shit, 3 aces.
There's this middle ground between, watching Citizen Kane now as like your whatever, like 50th or 100th like classic film you've ever watched, and you watch it and it's like, yeah, that's a pretty good classic film. But then you also have to like set it into a context of like how many groundbreaking things that film was doing at the time, and then you're like, yeah, of course, that's a great film, even though you might not personally love it. And that's kind of similar to how I feel about Texas Chainsaw, where I watch it and I'm like, these characters are pretty annoying, like both the family and the victims, and it's not a film that I love. But then there are segments of that film where I'm like, yeah, okay, this dinner scene looks fucking terrible for everyone involved, because it was. Like, they all had a terrible time shooting that. But it got, you watch it today, and it's still, like, an uncomfortable scene. Just like that ending shot. Like, every horror movie now, like, every A24 film has that exact same shot with, Sally, like, on the back of that pickup truck, covered in blood, like, laughing. Like, that's in every, like, prestige horror movie now. And, Texas Chainsaw did that. And so, you just, it's always tough with, like, classic films, because even though you might not love them, you also just sort of have to put them in the right context.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm trying to get at here is, to throw out a conversation piece is, why are we required to just sort of accept this as the reality? Like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a great movie. Why? Why is it a great movie? Is it just because, is it the filmmaking techniques that were used? I would say no. I don't think that's the reason why Texas Chainsaw Massacre is considered a great movie. Is it because it had a really just unique feel, an atmosphere and tone to it, and like an ickiness to it that wasn't really prevalent at the time? That's what I would argue. Yeah. I would argue it's better at that than it is the actual filmmaking aspect of it.
Right. I feel like some films just enter the zeitgeist and become notorious in that way. And this happens a lot with horror movies, like Texas Chainsaw, that is like gets noticed as this, like, oh, this is so extreme, this is so brutal, this is like the scariest movie ever made. But then you watch it and you're like, okay, well, you're not actually seeing a lot.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like and I feel like that, and that goes back to like Psycho and the shower scene and all that. And I feel like a lot of horror movies often gets elevated to that status when it is that type of filmmaking that is a little I don't know. It's not just. It's like so good at evoking a feeling. The same thing with The Exorcist, right? Of like people come out of that movie so terrified the first time, and then it's like after that, it's like, okay, well, this is one of the greatest horror movies ever made. And then after that, because it's so hard to debate feelings. It's so hard to question a person's feelings.
Well, have you ever noticed that a lot of these movies that are just default considered great horror films, and again, I'm not saying they're bad movies. I think there's a difference between like this is a very good movie to suddenly saying it is a masterpiece, right? We're putting this up as something that's kind of unassailable. I think there's a difference there, but at the time, many of these movies that are considered masterpieces, whether it's Halloween, and I love that movie, but I would be completely open to somebody questioning, well, why do I need to consider this a great movie? I know, Steve, you don't really like Halloween. Is that correct? Are you the one that really doesn't like the original?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
So you don't
like
the original
in general, just give no fucks about horror movies that lack a supernatural element.
Now, keep in mind that when all of these movies were sort of being decreed as like the cream of the crop, as Macho Man would say, this took place in the 70s by and large. The 70s were kind of like the high point for film criticism, right? All of these new, fresh, young Hollywood filmmakers coming in, and they're rebels, and they're doing their own thing, and they're creating all these sort of great things, and all the auteur theory that came out of the French New Wave, and all of this. There was a very, very prevalent discourse on film as an art form back then. And then what happens? We roll into the 80s. Suddenly, that's all gone at that point in time. So I think there's a combination here of these movies popped at the right time, where it was at a time when all of the sort of like the Hays Code and all that was kind of being abolished, and you had like a decade of filmmakers just doing things that weren't previously seen in cinema before, at least in American cinema. I'll say that. They happened to be good movies, so that was a plus. And then you had the focus on that auteur theory of the director is sort of the author of this thing, and propping up all these individuals. And I just wonder, I'm just sort of questioning, is it deserved for some of these films that we consider great? I'm not saying that they're not great movies. I'm just sort of wondering why we can't reevaluate or even bring up the idea. If someone went up on, if Steve put up a video on Outpost Unknown just completely trashing Texas Chainsaw Massacre and explaining why it's not a good movie for X, Y, and Z, the general reaction to that, if it was ever seen by anybody, would probably be like, you're an idiot. What are you even talking about? They wouldn't engage with him on the substance, by and large, of whatever he was saying. They would dismiss him out of hand. And I guess my thesis here, if there is one, I'm kind of rambling at this point, I admit, is I think it's totally fine to question these things and be like, well, is The Exorcist really great? I rewatched it. I've watched it like 4 or 5 times at this point in my life. At no point did I ever think it was great. Now, I can respect it. I can respect the power of what it did to people, for sure. But I don't know. I think it's an interesting question.
Yeah, and I don't.
I'll throw it to you.
Yeah. I don't
the end.
think. Yeah.
Will you let Borp talk?
Well, he's not talking.
Okay. Well, I guess you could sort of turn this around on you, Matt, and be like, well, if Steve uploaded a video where he said, a 10-minute video essay on why The Thing sucked, you would be like, well, Steve's an idiot.
No, I wouldn't say he's an idiot until I heard his arguments. There's difference.
Okay, so are you sort of positioning yourself as like you're smarter than the rest of them, or like are you trying to?
Possibly, it depends on what the argument is.
I sort of disagree with your initial premise here that like people will not. There's definitely a subset of people that will not engage with film criticism in that way, but I do feel like if you put your arguments out there in a well-informed and sort of articulate way, you could make a video about why Texas Chainsaw Massacre sucks, and you will probably find some people who agree with you or see your points.
I'm sure everybody here right now would agree with that.
Yeah, so I guess I don't get the the premise.
The premise is we should be allowed to sort of question films that have been established as unassailable masterpieces.
But who is stopping you?
Yeah, exactly. I guess that's the point.
Well, I'm not saying that people are like there's someone literally, an organization saying you are not allowed to do this. I think people just don't do it, right? Because if we went out like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre sucks, the vast majority of people will dismiss it out of hand, right? Pick any great movie. For example, we all agree, I think, right? Shawshank Redemption is a great movie. Or pick any perfect movie in your mind. Something that, whether it's, I know, Steve, you're not a fan of Back to the Future. Pick a movie,
What?
Steve. What is a movie?
No, I like Back to the Future. I just recognize there are plot holes that annoy me.
Okay. Would you consider Back to the Future a great movie? That's kind of like
Yes.
unassailable. Okay. So when someone says no, it's not, how would you engage with that? How would that person be able to have any sort of questioning of Back to the Future's bona fides, in
I,
your opinion?
I,
How would they be
I,
able to do it?
I wouldn't engage. It's a pointless argument to debate someone that likes a form of entertainment. Like, if you like a form of entertainment and I don't, or vice versa, or if you like a certain movie and I don't, or vice versa, like there's no debating. It's just an exchange of feelings and opinions. Like, neither of you are ever going to see the other person's side.
You don't think that people can be convinced and swayed one way or the other?
No.
Like their position can change?
On just like basic entertainment, like, is this movie good or not? Like, no, I think at most you'd be like, you know, you got a point. I recognize you've said something valid. My opinion is unchanged. I cannot fathom a scenario where there's a movie that I love and someone made an argument that would make me hate it, or vice versa. I cannot think of a movie that I would hate and someone would say, "Well, consider it from this perspective," and suddenly I would like the movie. That's just, I feel like it's just not a thing. Or let me put it back on you. When's the last time that, like, either of you, like, when's the last time your opinion on a piece of entertainment has completely, like, changed, where you used to like it and now you dislike it because of something that someone else said to you?
The Third Man.
I
This is
don't even know
a
what that
classic.
is.
It's a classic film noir with Orson Welles in it, and for the longest time, I hated that movie. I absolutely hated it. I was like, this movie just sucks. I don't understand why it gets the accolades it did. And then I actually read. This was actually back in college, so this had to have been like 15 years ago at this point. And I read an essay by this film critic that was like, actually, this is what this movie's actually talking about and what it's saying. And I never even understood. Like, when I watched it multiple times, I had no idea that that's what the movie was saying and what it was actually about. And then I read this article that completely, like, oh, well, now I get it. Now I like this because I understand it and I can engage with this movie on a level I was completely missing and didn't see before. That would be one example for me. Now, trust me, this is not something that I think that everybody does, but I certainly think that you can. How do I want to say this? I'm not sort of trying to make this argument in terms of like and dislike. I'm just trying to sort of make this argument in sort of questioning these sort of like Mount Rushmore type films that we are just expected to believe are great, whether you like them or not, right? So, for example, you love The Exorcist and I don't. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to convince you that the movie sucks, and you're not going to convince me that the movie's great. That's irrelevant. My point is, I'm questioning why are we considered like why is this movie great in the first place? Like, should it even be considered a great movie regardless of whether we like or dislike it? That's kind of what I'm saying. But I don't think I'm sort of explaining it in the way that I need to
Yeah,
explain it to
I'm
get you guys to
fucking lost
understand.
here.
Okay, never mind.
Bork,
Fuck it.
help.
This is the thing. In my brain, I have this strange addled brain, and I think of all these things, and I can't get the words out to make people understand. I'm locked in my own mental prison, is what I'm saying.
Sometimes
Yeah,
I'm also locked in your mental prison. I've been on a film set with you.
Surely there's a
Sure.
chatter out there that knows. They understand me. Somebody in the chat understands me.
I want to know how many people have legitimately had their opinion of any form of entertainment based on someone just, like, hitting them with, like, a new perspective.
I mean, I've definitely had films where it's like I'll hear someone else talk about it passionately, and I'll be like, okay, you know what? I came out of that film really disliking it. Now when I think about it, it's not like I don't hate it, anymore, but it's not this complete change. Like, okay, now I love it. This happened to me with Saltburn, which is a newer film. I came out of that movie, I fucking hated it so much. I thought it was absolute garbage. But then, like, I would get people on TikTok talking about it, because that was a really big movie on TikTok. And I would hear, like, other people's perspective on it, and I'm like, okay, I guess there is some merit to this when I think about it in these terms that I hadn't thought of before. It doesn't mean I love the movie now.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely open to rewatching it and re-examining it.
And maybe that's kind of my point, but I'm just going much, much further than what you guys are willing to go. So I'm sort of thinking, like, Borp, you and I have both now given sort of examples where we have disliked a movie, possibly bordering on hating a particular movie. We saw a different perspective from someone else. They made the argument, which then shifted our mindset to being like, okay, this isn't nearly as bad as I thought. I hadn't considered looking at it in this way. So I'm kind of on board. I might not love it, doesn't matter, but my perception of the film has shifted and changed. So I'm just extending that, sort of like reverse that, where it's something we don't like and we switch it, and whatever level of sort of liking comes from that. Maybe it's, I really love The Third Man, whereas you're just like, well, I've moved. The needle has moved a little bit for me in this direction, but on this film that I like, the needle moved a long way. But what if you reverse that? A film that is considered great, and then somebody makes the argument, Texas Chainsaw Massacre actually is not great because X, Y, and Z. I guess I just feel like we don't allow ourselves to consider that route as much as we do, okay, well, I hated it. Now I've heard an argument that makes me kind of like it, and I respect it more. But if it's the opposite, this thing is great. No, actually, it's not, because X, Y, and Z. That doesn't. The two things are not equal, I guess, in terms of the discourse that we use. Does that make more sense? It does in my head. I don't know.
Yeah.
We should just question things. Just question things. You know, ask yourself, like, why? God, is Halloween actually an unassailable great movie? Is it? It doesn't mean that suddenly it's not. I'm simply saying we should be able to, reevaluate some of this stuff, and, trust me, there's plenty of 80s movies that are considered amazing classics. Pretty fucking problematic now when you look at it. Creepshow 2: The Raft.
Christ.
Creepshow 2: The Raft, pretty fucking problematic now that you look at it.
God,
Didn't look at it in the 80s that way, but looks like it now.
I was thinking about Ghost the other day with Patrick Swayze, and that movie is thought of as like this great, like, romantic story of, like, love even after death. And I was thinking about it the other day, and if I remember this correctly, the background for Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore is he asked her on a date and she said no, and so then he just constantly harassed her by loudly and annoyingly singing an annoying song until she finally gave in and said yes to a date to get him to stop. Would that ever fly? Like, ever? Like, why? Like, ladies out there, like, show of hands, like, would that get you to agree to a date without feeling very highly harassed? But there's any number, like an infinite number of just crap like that in hindsight, it's pretty fucking wrong. But yet The Raft is like, even back in the day, like, I can't imagine, like, who looked at that as like, yeah, this is fucking hot.
Well, I don't think people looked at it as necessarily like, this is hot. I think the problem with that sequence in The Raft, and for anyone out there listening who does not know, there's a sequence in the second Creepshow movie. It's pretty much the only short story in Creepshow 2 that I think is good, where it's just a dude and he's there, like the girl's sleeping on the raft, and he just starts feeling her up while she's unconscious. And I remember, like, at least at that time, like even in the 80s when I first saw this movie and into the 90s, that just wasn't questioned in terms of the discourse around, well, that's the worst part of this whole thing. There was never a sort of like, it was always, oh, the raft is awesome. This whole thing is just cool. That's the best story. And no one talked about, by the way, he's essentially like molesting this woman while she's unconscious. What the fuck is up with that? Like, why? But now, if you were to show that to any young person now, they'd be like, whoa, 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 whoa. And you'd have problems, right? That would be potentially an example of a piece of art that, obviously Creepshow 2 is not some unassailable, piece of cinema or anything. But or how about like The Searchers with John Wayne? Very, very classic Western film. That is always up there. It is considered one of the greatest Westerns of all time. Look what happened when Rachel watched it. Rachel was like, this whole fucking thing is creepy. It is, incredibly problematic. What the hell is John Wayne doing? Trying to find this girl in this way, and how disturbing it is when you look at it from her perspective. Everybody else for decades, like, man, The Searcher is fantastic, but other people have different ways to look at it, and then when they tell you those ways, you're like, actually, yeah, that is a really weird and creepy sort of thing. Why am I enjoying it? Why should I be enjoying this? I don't know. It gets back to like a Serbian film, right?
Oh God. Yeah, let's talk about a Serbian film again.
Yeah, let's talk about a Serbian film, because I think it's a very important film for a number of different reasons. But I think it's one of those times when you're just like, should I be enjoying this? It's a good movie. In terms of the technical way it's made, it's shot, the power that it has, the power that it can, put over people. I know Jeff and myself, when we watched it, we were just like, yeah, I don't think we're going to look at horror films kind of the same way, at least for a while. I think what Jeff said, it throws you on tilt or something. I just didn't look at it the same way. I didn't look at other horror films the same way after I watched something like that. If I went back and watched it today, how would I feel? Would I still feel that way, or would I look at it from a completely different perspective and be like, you know what, maybe I should question, my internal belief that this is some sort of powerful film that did the thing. I don't know. Just question. That's all I'm saying. Just question things.
Matt, I authorize you to question anything that you would like to question.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, that was my topic. Now it's on to you guys.
No, I was just thinking about, I understand what you mean about serving the film, about like watching that film and being like, maybe just thinking differently about things. But I also think the movie came out at such a particular time and place that I doubt I would have that same reaction now.
The interesting thing, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the interesting thing about a Serbian film, and I've always looked at it in terms of, I don't remember what the name of the director of the movie was, but I always looked at that film as, 'cause at that time, for maybe 5, 6, 7 years before that, you were in the quote-unquote torture porn phase of horror, right? So you had Hostel, you had Martyrs, you had, High Tension, you had like all of these sort of like films that were just pushing the envelope with how gruesome can we torture a human body and make people uncomfortable while watching it. And I always looked at a Serbian film as kind of the director simply saying, you know what, we're ending this. We're ending this entire subgenre because I'm just going to do everything to its logical conclusion. There's no more like one-upping in small doses, filmmaker to filmmaker. I'm just going to take everybody to the logical end point of this torture porn subgenre, and I'm going to make it so that nobody can one-up me, and therefore it's over. It's done. And I feel like he kind of did it. Honestly, I feel like that was a success. And then after that movie came out, it's not like these sort of torture-y type of horror films don't exist. They certainly didn't get the publicity that they did. It certainly kind of like took the wind out of a lot of filmmakers' sails, I think. And so I think it has a power just in that. So yeah, a Serbian film is a very interesting film. It honestly is. Anytime you guys want to bring up a new conversation,
look, you're the one that wanted to stream poker tonight. Like all of this is on you.
Oh God, that's too much on my shoulders. Okay, I'm bounced out, so I'm gonna look at the chat. Is anybody saying anything in the chat? Okay. Okay. Well, I was hoping for some good conversation. Borp, what have you been up to? Tell us about Sweden. What's a good conversation topic?
No news.
But no politics, no national news, no anything like that.
How's the weather in Sweden, Borp?
Well, certainly Sweden has got more going on than politics.
I feel like you'd be surprised.
No?
Matt, explain your no news sabbatical. Why do you do this?
Oh, okay. So I first did this no news sabbatical before the last U.S. presidential election. And this was something that I had been wanting to do for a long, long time, but I just, you never do it. It's like, hey, I want to stop looking. Everyone says that. I don't want to pay attention to the news. The news is just a bunch of bullshit, and it just makes me angry and anxiety-ridden, and it gets people arguing with one another, friends versus friends, family members versus family members, whatever it may be. So before the last presidential election, I said, you know what? Fuck it. I am going on a complete blackout when it comes to all political news, all major news that's happening. I didn't look at any, news web pages. This is for 7 months. So this is 7 months leading up to the night of the election. And I was like, I'm not going to look at a single piece of news. I have no idea what's going on in the world. And I'm just going to turn on my news the night of the election and just see what happens. And so for 7 months I did that. I had no idea the Black Lives Matter stuff was going on because it was during that whole summer. Had no idea. The building I lived in at the time did get shot, so I knew that there was some sort of, riot sort of type stuff that was happening. A friend of mine, they destroyed her place of business through like chairs through a window or something downtown. So I knew sort of tangentially something was going on, but I didn't know the specifics. I didn't know that people were getting shot and any of that. So I just kind of went through the whole thing, got to election night, not having any idea what was going to happen. And that was fun and interesting. But what I realized over that 7 months is that my mental health increased exponentially. You would be amazed at if you just cut the news out of your life, how much better your life becomes. You don't have you're not worried about, oh my God, what's going to happen with the election? Who's winning? Who's losing? What's the next poll say? What's the next horrible thing that the news media is throwing out there, and how everyone in our government's fighting and all these things? Ignorance is bliss. You have no fucking idea what is going on. And it makes your mental health better. And I liked the feeling of that. So what I did this time around was, I think it was November 5th. I have not looked at a piece of news other than like entertainment news, right? So I will go and be like, okay, there's a new Star Wars show coming out or something like that. I'm talking politics. I'm talking any major news story that you would see, like, okay, CNN's talking today about what happened here, what happened there. I don't know. I know nothing. The only time news filters to me is, like, for example, at my job, I might get an email about something that occurs that would relate to something with my job. But that's few and far between. It's not like you get emails every single day like, this happened. I just don't see it. So what I wanted to do this time around, because I know what the bullshit was going to be, right? It's going to be, okay, the next year is going to be nothing but people bitching and moaning and complaining and, arguing about stupid fucking news, checking out, don't care, have no desire. Like, I already know, okay, whatever I see that, whoever I'm going to see on that ballot that I'm going to vote for, I already know who I'm going to vote for. Like, whatever that's going to be, I'm already going to know the day I walk into that voting booth. Does not fucking matter. None of this stuff matters. Anything going on in the world where Congress is fighting and arguing back and forth does not fucking matter. You have no control over any of it. Who gives a shit? All these people do is get on television and try to rile you up. That's it. I refuse to let these fucking politicians affect my mental health. I don't give a shit anymore. I just don't care. I look at the long arc of progress. The long arc of progress is we will get to the place that we need to get to. I have no doubt about that. How we get there, the minutia day to day, I don't give a shit. And so, yeah, I'm telling you, it's pretty fucking great to have no idea what's going on and have no clue about what's going on. And I won't know what's going on until next November 5th or whatever, or this coming November 5th. It's fantastic. So, yeah, I don't want to know the news because I don't want to break this year-long. I wanted it to be 1 year. So I started, I think, on November 5th, and I think the election's on November 5th, or maybe it's the 6th, whatever it was, out. So I don't know how many months this has been. 4 months now? Don't know what's going on in the world. Don't care. Don't give a shit. Doesn't affect me. I don't care. That is my news sabbatical.
All right, here you go, Matt. Here, I really mean this emote. There you go.
I'm sort of with you there, because when you asked what is news in Sweden, I have no idea. I don't follow the news. I just.
There's pretty fucking big Sweden news.
I know we joined, but that was going to be my next point. I know we joined NATO because, that's the
thing. Like, we knew that was happening before I went on my news sabbatical. We were talking about.
I feel like there's some sort of happy medium here. You don't have to do the extreme thing to improve your mental health. You can just also, choose to ignore it most of the time and then check it every once in a while.
Yeah, but why even bring it into your system?
Because there's a part of me that's I feel like it's kind of important to keep up to date.
Why? What do you do that affects anything?
I like to
Wow, that was a brutal comment.
No, I don't mean it in a bad way, but I'm just saying, for example, whatever bullshit is happening in Congress right now in the United States, whatever they're bitching about that the world knows, I have no impact on any of it. I don't give a fuck. The only thing I can do is vote, and I'll vote when it's time to vote.
I understand. I feel like this is an extremely American perspective, especially when it comes to politics, because you have a two-party system. We have 8 parties in our Congress. So for me, I would feel if I took a sabbatical from news a year up until the election, I would be oh, I don't know what I'm voting for.
Okay, and that's fair. That's fair. I'm coming at this from the ugly American perspective, where our political system is hopelessly broken, and it cannot be fixed. And there is only 2 parties that have any meaning and merit whatsoever, and they're both evil in their own way, and you have to pick the lesser of 2 evils. And one evil I will never vote for out of sheer principle. And so I'm there is no... I don't have that. Now, there could be other people in America that do have it. I'm sure Rachel would argue with me. It's you must pay attention to X, Y, and Z. Okay.
Yeah. There might be an argument to, keep up with local news.
I never watch local news. Don't give a shit.
Yeah,
don't care.
Don't care. We're in Lincoln, Nebraska. Nothing that happens in the city matters.
Yeah. Don't care. I mean, we live in a state that is dominated by one party and the minority party has no power in anything.
Right.
Does not matter how many, like, there aren't even enough votes in Nebraska to get anyone I would want even in power anyway.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, from my perspective, where I am at in life does not matter. Doesn't. So why would I put this bullshit into my eyeballs every day? Why would I want to jump on social media and sit there and read through what people are saying about this and that?
Well,
Who gives a shit?
I mean,
don't care.
Yeah, but you don't have to do that. You don't
I know,
have to
and I don't.
Yeah. No, you're... Okay.
I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that there is probably some sort of healthy medium option here of, like, scrolling through headlines every once in a while.
You tell me what it is. Make the argument. What is the benefit to me to see what's happening in my American Congress right now? What's the happy medium? I'm willing to hear it out.
Well, I'm just saying the thing that I'm doing, which is, like, every once in a while I'll go to, like, the news site that I go to for Swedish news. And I just scroll through the headlines, and if something sounds interesting, I'll click it, and then I'll read it, and then I won't do that for, like, 2 weeks. And I don't know, that's a way to, like, be a little up to date, at least.
But I'm failing to understand why it's a negative thing to not be up to date. Because you seem to be implying the fact that I'm not up to date. Like, for example, I could go to CNN, right? I pull up my laptop, I go to CNN, I browse through some articles, and I'm like, okay, this article about Congress is fighting about, name your thing, gun issue or something. I click on it, I read it. And it makes me mad. Because they're arguing about bullshit that I have no control and cannot change. It just pisses me off. So how is that healthy? For my mental state.
Okay. Here's the thing. If you don't think it's healthy, then it's probably not healthy for you.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Fine. But I also feel like it's... I don't know. I could not live that life. It would... Yeah, I don't know. And that's fine. We're different.
No, I mean, hey, if people who want to go through and look at the news and keep up to date, I have no problem with that. Do you. Do what you want to do.
Are you actually different? Because I mean, just off the top of my head, I've never seen Borp and Matt in the same room at the same time. You could be the same person.
It's quite possible. It's quite possible. But yeah, all I can say is, like, I have encountered people, when I tell people this, in my, day-to-day life, when, I'm at work and I'm talking with colleagues and I'm like, hey, no news. If you're going to talk news, I'm bailing. And they'll ask me about this. I'm just like, look, have you ever tried it? Have you ever tried just cold stopping all news, all information? And every single time they say no. They've never even attempted it. And so my retort to them is like, well, don't judge me until you've attempted it. Give it 2 weeks. I challenge you. Go 2 weeks without paying attention to any news on social media, any newspapers, websites, cable media. Just go 2 weeks without doing it, and then report back of how you feel and what your mental state changes when you don't have that bullshit that you have no control over affecting you and causing anxiety and causing stress and causing anger. All I can say is it works for me. It might not work for you, but it works for me. And it makes election night real fun. Like that last election, I had no fucking clue what was going to happen. And my fiance, she watches the news at that time. She doesn't really watch it anymore. And she was kind of paying attention to things that were going on, and she was interested, but I had no. And she would get upset because she would try to, like, catch herself when she starts saying something like, "Don't tell me anything," right? She'd be looking at her phone and saying something like, "Don't tell me anything." And so, for me, just my own personal experience of not knowing what was happening for 7 months and then finding out everything all at once on election night, because they have to tie up time to talk, right? So while results are coming in, they're talking, well, did this Black Lives Matter, these riots and protests, or however each different person describes it. Did that cause this certain group to come out? And you start learning about all the news, and it's like, I don't know. It's a weird feeling. If you've never done it before, it's hard to explain. But
So I want to go back to Alyssa for a moment, because you said like Alyssa would like start to talk about something and then she would catch herself. Like there are people that like love you, care about you, respect your opinion on things, and it's natural for them to want to discuss things, even if they know full well that like no one has any, like, you have no power to fix things. The person that's talking to you about this has no power to fix things. Like, do you not feel like you? I mean, I want to say, do you not feel like you owe them anything? But owe is not the right word. But like, there are people that appreciate your insight on things, and you just shut them down.
Yeah, they need to respect my insight of not wanting to know about the news and not discuss it. That comes apart with terrorism, because to me, I'm looking at it as like, well, wait a minute. I'm not allowed to do this thing to make my mental health better because you want to talk to me about my insight on gun control. You already know what my insight on that is. Like, everybody that's close to me, I have had these conversations, like Rachel and I, for example, we've had lots of conversations about all kinds of topics. She's very well aware of where I stand on all of the issues that matter to her. Same thing with Alyssa. She knows where I stand on all of these things. We've had years to discuss all this stuff. I'm not going to just suddenly have some brand new insight into something that is unexpected. And if it is, if they are going to want that insight from me, then they can wait until my news sabbatical is over and then discuss it with me. Be like, this happened. What do you think about this? Oh, okay. Well, this is my insight.
Like this comes like to a point. I know this is not what you mean, but like this somewhat comes across like, don't talk to me unless it's about something unimportant.
Well, that's the thing. You're saying it's important. It's important to who? To you? To the person who wants my insight?
To the world,
Yeah,
to be informed about the status of the planet.
You're basically saying, like, I'm obligated to comment on the world. That's what you're saying. Like, what? Okay, Steve. For example, what's a general topic that you would want about the world, things going on in the world, whatever that could be, that you would say, I don't know what Matthew's insight into this would actually be, and I would want to discuss this with him.
I don't know. I'm still kind of hung up on like you've taken this to the extreme, just immediately.
That's the thing I keep coming back to.
For my mental health. It makes me feel better to not have to discuss and process all of this shit, because when you start having a conversation,
like, reading the news doesn't make you have to discuss it. Like, you could ignore those conversations. You could still be informed about stuff.
It's ignorance is bliss, I assume, is just Matt's overall take on this.
It's pretty great. Yes. What I'm not understanding here is why am I obligated to be informed of what's happening on the news? Because, like, why is there an obligation to that? Because that seems to be what your point is, Borp. You're like, look, just read CNN every once in a while and keep up to date, but don't discuss it. Don't read into it. Like, what are you saying?
My point is that if there are things that your loved ones care about that is happening, and you're like, no, don't tell me. It, like, I feel like you're coming at this from a very, like, hopeless perspective, and it's a very American perspective, and I understand because of the way things are. Like,
do you want me to look at Swedish news? Like, what? What do you want me to be looking at?
What I'm saying is that, like, for me, like, I don't think I could live that life, because I would want to know, okay, if something fucked is going on with the government, I would want to be able to, like, rally in the streets. I would want to organize. I would want to, like, try to change things. but that
Yeah.
does not sound like something you are interested in doing.
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
Absolutely
okay.
not. And the thing about it is, like, if you're looking at the news and keeping up on it and it's not affecting you in a negative way, by all means, go do it. It's fine. What I'm
Yeah.
telling you is when I look at the news, it affects me negatively. And, when you look at it from like the big, broader perspective, right? It's like, okay, rally in the streets, rally in the streets. No, I'm sorry. I'm just not interested. I just don't care. Like, I really don't care about it. And all it does is create negative anxiety and stress, and I don't want that. I don't want that in my life.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
Borp and I are coming at this from like, and like, Matt, I completely support your right to do this. I'm just being like
Yeah,
the
for
negative Nancy
sure.
here.
For
But it's like
sure.
so Borp's talking about like perhaps you have some sort of like obligation to stay informed, and if things go really wrong, you need to know. And so he's hitting it, and you went to the extreme immediately, and he's hitting it from that angle. Like the angle that I'm hitting it from is like I could not like imagine like a loved one coming to me and be like, Steve, I read this article. I hate what I read. Like I need to get this out of my system. I cannot imagine just going, no, I'm not interested in what you have to say. Go somewhere else. And like you have the right to do that. I could never imagine exercising that right.
Okay. Well, I will say that none of the conversations that anyone has ever come to me with during these news spectacles has ever been from that perspective. Like, oh my God, I must talk about this, or I am
See,
going
I
to,
do have that happen. I have had people come
never
to me.
happened. That's never happened to
It's
me.
like I saw this, like, the Supreme Court is about to make such and such decision. I am so upset about this. I need to talk about it. Like that stuff like that absolutely happens to me.
Okay. That doesn't happen to me. Now, if it did, I would probably try to say, I appreciate that you want to talk to me about this. Is there anyone else that you could talk to about this to get this out of your system? Does it have to be me? And if it does have to be me, why does it have to be me? Is it going to affect me? No, I mean this in a way, like, does it affect me? Is this something that's going to literally like impact me in a way that is incredibly important? Because I am not the sole person in everyone's life that they can go to vent about something, right? So to me, from my perspective, let's say this were you, Steve, and you were in this sort of situation, like, look, no news. And I'm like, oh my God, Steve, this thing, I have to tell you about it. I must tell you about it. To me, from my perspective, I'm like, I'm being kind of an asshole. You've made it clear that for this length of time, you do not want this kind of stuff in your life. I don't have a single other person I can go to. I can't go talk to Borp about stuff. I can't go talk to Jeff about it. It must be you. That, to me, I feel like a kind of asshole to do that because I'm infringing on what you want, which is I've informed you what this is. You know what's happening here for this year. I don't want this shit in my life, and I would hope that if this were reversed, I would say, you know what? Yeah, Steve doesn't want to hear this, but I got to talk to someone. I'm going to go talk to Jeff about it, or I'm going to go talk to Rachel about it, or I'm going to go talk to DJ about it, or I'm going to talk to any other array of friends who are not weirdos like Matthew who are doing this one thing. So,
It's
to
right
me, there
just
is no
because
scenario.
like we are like you say that like that has never happened to you where it does happen to me, so maybe it's just because of our background of or our different backgrounds of me already having people that come to me like that.
Possibly.
I can't imagine as much as I in theory approve of the idea, I couldn't imagine actually pulling the trigger on that, 'cause I feel like that would take something away from me that lets me do something for the people that I care about.
Do you think that? Hold on, I had a thought here, and now my ADHD has lost it.
This is some heavy shit for what would normally be Fortnite.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is why I want to do the live stream, because this is good conversation, right? I respect your guys' opinions, absolutely, and I can completely understand from your perspectives. You're like, whoa, 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 there are tanks driving down the street. You don't want to know about that? That sort of thing. I get it. I get what you're saying. All I can say is that it helps me. My health is better when I'm not dealing with this kind of bullshit. Now, I'm not saying like if there was some, super unique situation where, if Alyssa came to me and was like, we have to talk about what just happened. Of course, I'm not going to be like, go kick rocks. I'm going to go in my room and shut my door or something, like, don't talk to me. I'm a hermit until November 5th. Of course, I wouldn't do something like that. But it would have to be, I would have to really know and understand that this is serious. I can set this thing aside for this one unique thing. But if it's like I'm scrolling through CNN and, oh my God, this sort of happened, no. If this is something that's life and death, if this is something that is so important that, it's got to, it'd be awful for me not to help this person by just hearing what, of course I would. But if it's something like, hey, Congressman A did Congressman Bill, or some law just went through Congress, fuck that. I don't give a shit. Don't give a shit about any of it.
All right.
I hope that you would
Fair
respect
enough.
me on that.
I would.
Until November 6th.
I will not come to you. Not that I would anyway, because you got some stupid opinions.
Oh wow, my opinions are my own strange. Maybe I have like a Charles Band-ish fever dream mind where I just think of strange things. Like it is weird because. And I'm not going to get into it because I know you don't want to talk about it, Steve, but kind of like the whole canon thing. I watched Jeff's reaction video.
All right, real quick, what is Jeff's opinion on the canon thing? Because I have not watched it. I don't watch any of the shit that we put out.
His opinion is that my definition using the word canon is what he really has. I guess it's a crawl. What's the word? What's the phrase? I'm like, it sort of sticks in him. Like I'm using the language wrong, in his opinion.
Okay.
He sort of comes back around though. He uses an example that kind of sort of backs up how I am trying to explain it. So it sounds like he's kind of coming around to like understanding my perspective on it. He just feels that the language I'm using is the wrong way to describe what I'm.
Hey, Jeff. Jeff is watching. By the way, we got a question long ago asking if we had seen the Fallout trailer. So when we run out of important shit to talk about, we'll go back to Fallout.
See, now what was I about to say regarding this whole canon? Oh, yeah. I have this whole sort of like inner monologue that I've been playing out because I want to, I respect Jeff, and Jeff says things in very articulate and intelligent ways, and it's very difficult to just sort of come back at him like, you have to really like pre-plan it. And so this is like this watercolor show that I'm kind of developing. I hope I get to actually do it because essentially what I want to do is I don't know how to watercolor, have no idea, but I'm just going to kind of like watercolor something while talking about these sorts of topics just kind of out loud and how my brain views these things, and then show whatever the watercolor is at the very end. So it's kind of like a way for it's like a bad Bob Ross talking about interesting weird concepts. But interestingly enough, Jeff, I won't get into it now because I'll save it for the watercolor show, but I went to a birthday party a couple Fridays back. We didn't have a live stream because I had to go to a birthday party. It was one of the reasons. And I went there, and I happened to run into this woman who just so happened to be a linguist at UNL. Like her entire thing is talking about language and understanding language and words and how they are used. And I ran this scenario by her because I had watched your video about you taking me to task about the meaning of the word canon and that I'm using it incorrectly when I say canon is bullshit. And I'll get into it more, but she agreed with my perspective on how canon should or should not be defined, which I think you might find interesting. It boils down to words with different words have different definitions, and how words get those different definitions, and how they're sort of described. But I found it was just kind of ironic and interesting that I ran into a linguist, a UNL professor of speaking in linguistics or whatever, and she actually had some interesting takes that if I get to this stupid watercolor show that I want to do, I will get out there and have a proper rebuttal to your video, good sir.
All right, let me ask you about something that always comes up when we have our canon conversation, which we are absolutely not having right now.
Okay.
You're
bringing this up more, so I'm saying.
This is not about canon. This is just another thing that always gets like shoved into that.
This is like putting me on the couch tonight, guys. You guys are going deep into my mental.
You wanted to stream tonight. Like I was about to go play Final Fantasy.
Oh, this is good. This is good.
You seem to be like just incredulous that I got to a point with Star Wars that I was just like, no, I'm out. So like, what is like? Do you actually believe that once you become a fan of something, you are like just not allowed to not be a fan anymore? Like, what is your actual stance on that?
So I wouldn't go so far as like you can't be a fan of something anymore. I guess like the term fan is like, okay, well, for example, Star Wars. I will always be a fan of Star Wars. Always. Because there's been so much stuff, so much media, whether it's books, comics, video games, television shows, movies, whatever it is, there is so much content that has been created within the Star Wars realm over my entire lifetime that it's impossible for me to not be a fan. So, for example, 10 things in a row could come out that's complete trash, bullshit, garbage. And I'm not going to stop being a fan of Star Wars because I can always go back to all of this other content. I can revisit this content that I do believe is great. I'm always of the opinion of these, and the whole canon conversation. I joke a little bit when I say all canon is bullshit. I do believe it to a certain extent, but I'm primarily focusing it in on these perpetually created IPs, right? Where stories and new creators constantly come in, and they will always make, until we're dead, there will be new Avengers movies and stories. There will be new Star Wars content. So from my perspective, I have a hard time understanding how someone is like, hey, I'm a fan. I love all of these things about Star Wars. And then would watch, let's say, we'll even go in the high end. Let's say like 20 things in a row and it's trash. And then suddenly like, I'm not a fan. I will never watch anything in this world or universe ever again. Even though there is so much awesome stuff that I've loved for 20 years before certain creators came in and started doing stuff, I can't understand that perspective. Now, if you were maybe just like a casual fan of Star Wars where you're just kind of like, yeah, I watch things here and there. I'm not into the nitty-gritty of it. It's not a passion of mine. It's not something I grew up loving and adoring and immersing myself in. Sure, I can understand someone bailing at that point. My perspective is, though, if you are so passionate about it, and there's an infinite number of stories coming out. Like, for example, if The Acolyte comes out, and, we were, circling back around to what this initially started tonight where, universal praise of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? It's just an amazing, great movie. We're not allowed to question it. If people came out like, dude, fucking Acolyte is insane. It is great. It has nothing to do with the Mandalorian universe or that time period. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's its own thing. It's fucking a banger. I don't understand the perspective of someone who professed to be a fan and love all of this stuff to suddenly like, absolutely not. I will never watch it because these other things that happened right before it, I hated them. Therefore, I would never give the opportunity to watch this. And I use this because I know you're not going to watch The Bad Batch, for example. But when Rachel and I have our Star Wars conversations, I tell her, I was like, I could curate a group of 10 Bad Batch episodes, and I know Steve would love them. I know he would love these characters. I know he would love the arc that they go on, and I know he would love these stories. But he just will refuse to do it now because, Obi-Wan burned him, and the sequel trilogy burned him. That's weird to me.
Do you think do you think that I am just being, stubborn or what?
I think...
what do you think when you, bring up, hey, Steve, new Star Wars show is out, what do you think, the emotion that I am feeling is?
I think you're very apathetic about it because you feel like you've been burned multiple times. But I guess my retort to that is if, as we were just talking earlier about the news, right, if someone were to say, hey, I really think that you would enjoy this, and you guys were reflecting back on me, I can't imagine not engaging with this because, it's someone I really care about and they really want to share this thing with me, and I'm going to say absolutely not. To me, that's kind of similar to this. So if I were to be like, dude, this is fucking great, you should really, really watch it. From my perspective, I know that you're pissed off and bummed out that these Star Wars projects that have come out have not lived up to what you wanted them to be. I know that. I understand that. I know that you were passionate about Star Wars before all this. As a passionate Star Wars fan myself, I want to re-spark that for you. It bothers me that, for example, you would just dismiss it out of hand. For example, let's say you had not watched Obi-Wan and you had just watched the sequel trilogy and you'd watched Book of Boba Fett and you were like, fuck this, I'm not into it. I would, obviously I watched Obi-Wan, I would never say to you, Steve, go watch Obi-Wan, because I recognize it's a piece of shit. Right? I would not tell you must watch Obi-Wan. There are Star Wars things that I don't watch. I don't watch that Tales of the Jedi thing that's for kids. It's on Disney Plus. I don't watch that. I can't watch the anime shit because it drives me crazy. There's plenty of comics and novels I don't read. I don't check out because I've read and heard that they're just not that great stories. But if I were to come to you and be like, Steve, you have to watch The Acolyte. It is so fucking good. And if you were just to come to me and be like, absolutely not, I refuse, I would think, yes, you're being kind of stubborn about this. Maybe there's an ulterior motive. And I know, from my perspective, I will just not do things out of spite. Fuck that. I'm not doing it. So I understand that kind of feeling. And I think it's weird to me because I don't understand your mindset, and it bothers me.
So it's not spite. It is not spite whatsoever. It is exactly what you said. It is apathy.
Yes,
how do you make yourself care about something that you are so disinterested in? And so, but going back to what we were talking about in the previous conversation about not following the news, I do feel there's a difference between, hey, will you have a 20-minute conversation with me versus will you sink 12 hours into a series that you might not care about?
100%. I 100%
but,
get that.
So here's the thing. I kind of view it as like the spark in a relationship. The spark died after several bad Star Wars things. And so you and Rachel, pleaded with me for a fucking year, watch Andor, watch Andor, watch Andor. Andor is the best thing that Star Wars has put out in the last 20-something years. I watched it. I did it. I did exactly what you and Rachel wanted me to do it. And the spark didn't come back. So how many times?
Well, you thought it was good, right? I don't know how many times. Maybe it'll never come back.
All right, but that's the thing. So you were saying that to appease you, I should continue to watch things that I have no interest in.
No. You don't. You can do whatever you want to do. That's fine. If you're like, hey man, I'm out on Star Wars forever, fine.
But I am, but I said that. That's how I feel, and I'm like living rent free in your head because of that decision.
No, you're not living rent free in my head.
I am absolutely.
I feel
no,
like
no,
when
I
I
am
see
living
something
rent free.
that's good, when I feel like I see something that's good, and I want to share it with you, and you're like, nope, I'm just going to dismiss it out of hand. I just won't do it. I won't do it at all. Now, if I'm sitting here telling you, like, dude, you got to watch literally everything. You're going to have to watch everything for the rest of your life until you find that thing to get you your spark. Yes, obviously, that would be a stupid take. But if I'm able to find, so let's say 10 years down the road, Steve, for example, 10 years down the road, I've watched all the Star Wars content, and you've gone with none. Right? And I'm like, okay, Steve, out of this 10 years, these 5 things were fantastic. Here's the Rotten Tomatoes scores. Here's the consensus, whatever. People love these 5 things. Just watch those. If you want to try to get back your love of Star Wars, just watch the curated stuff. That's why I was mentioning like the Bad Batch. You will not like the Bad Batch if you just sit there and have to watch all the episodes where they go off and look for treasure and stuff and weird shit like that. You wouldn't. But if I curated 6 half-hour episodes for you, and I was like, watch these over the span of the next 6 months, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. It's just weird to me that you would say absolutely, like, fuck that, no. Borp, I feel like you want to say something.
Well, I feel
like
Disney have kind of put themselves in this position with both Star Wars and Marvel, where like people
100%.
are burned. I've never cared about Star Wars. Like I watched the latest one I saw was episode 7, in theaters on opening day. Great event, and like I don't care about it any more than that. Like it was a great time. I'll probably watch the rest of the movies at some point, but you know, not a priority. But Marvel was like, they follow every Marvel movie, and then I got burned on a couple one of them, and I kept up like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And like, even before they had the
that's hardcore.
Yeah, I know. Even before the Disney Plus shows, and I watched WandaVision, and then there was another show, and then there was another show, and there was another bad movie, and then there was another bad movie, and I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. You can tell me whatever, you know, fucking Shang-Chi is apparently a great movie, not interested. I don't care. I might care a little later when I'm, like, not so burned out on it. And it's, like, it's such a specific problem with Disney that it's, like, it's hard to even equate it to any other form of, like, media.
7-2 offsuit, let's go!
Best hand in poker.
Because, like, even if you're not consuming Star Wars, you're hearing about it. If you're in this, you know, space, you're just hearing about Star Wars constantly. And, like, I feel like I know everything that happened in The Mandalorian just by listening to podcasts about movies and video games and nerd shit.
Yeah.
Not even specifically about Star Wars. So it's like, it's so hard to escape that burnout.
Sure. Almost like it's really hard to escape news and burnout. It's the same. We're talking about the same sorts of things, right? Just different types of media and how we consume media, whether it's, you know, Star Wars and Marvel stuff, or it's like I got to follow every fucking thing that's going on in Congress every single day to sort of keep up on all that stuff. You get burned out on it. People get burned out and apathetic about our government and our country because we're inundated with bullshit constantly. And I'm not saying that there aren't times when I get apathetic about things as well. I guess where I don't go to is I don't go to the level of I'm going to just sort of now, like for example, the news thing. I'm not going to cut news out of my life forever. I'm not doing this thing where it's like I'm never going to look at the news till I'm 85 years old, right? I'm doing it for a specific set amount of time because you get burned out on it, stresses you out, pisses you off, you get angry. All these are emotions that no human should ever want to feel. But with news, that's how it makes me feel, and I don't want that feeling. And I feel like it's the same way with, you know, Marvel and stuff. We're all burned out on Marvel, right? There's so much bullshit garbage coming out that, guess what? Kind of makes you pissed off that you wasted your time. makes you kind of stressed out, anxiety ridden of like, why the fuck aren't these people better at their jobs and creating great stories? And it just you get this mental shit. Cut it out for a while. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
So I think another maybe this is partially related to this. I don't know. So like when Matt would give me a curated list of the Bad Batch. He's like, Steve, I know you would love these if you watched them. And maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. All I can tell you is right now I don't have the spark. What
Sure.
I would say is, even if I say no, like sorry, like Star Wars, I just don't have the interest. Like I'm not missing out on anything. Like there's an infinite amount of entertainment out there. And maybe I'm misrepresenting your point here, but in the past, like you have acted like I am like truly missing out on an experience by not going all in on Andor, and I would disagree because anytime I wasn't watching Andor, I was watching something else that I was enjoying. Like there's no missing out as far as entertainment goes anymore. Anytime I am not watching anything, I'm just experiencing something else and having a good time, hopefully.
Like Puppet Master Axis Termination.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's yeah, and I think that when I make that argument, where I'm coming from is that I understand that when we as human beings consume media, we are making a choice, and we roll the dice as to whether or not we're going to come out of this with I had a great time and experience with this particular piece of media, or I hated it. It sucked. It wasn't good. Puppet Master Axis Termination, perfect point there. What, we spent 75 minutes of our lives watching this
74.
bullshit movie.
It wasn't even feature length.
74 minutes watching this bullshit content, which is what we would normally do if we weren't doing this shit for podcasts. We watch bad, awful movies all the time.
No, I don't. No.
Okay, so maybe you're just completely different than me. I guess I don't know that the content is going to be great until I actually watch the content. So, for example, Shogun right now. Watching Shogun, fucking fantastic. I had no idea. You see these Rotten Tomatoes 100% rating, right? Like if you had a Star Wars thing that was at 100%, 500 reviewers said this thing is brilliant. To me, if I was like, you know what, I'm not going to consume this piece of media because something previously burned me, and even though this thing is consensus amazing, I'm going to, in my opinion, deny myself access to this great thing to go watch something that might not be that great. But if you only watch amazing things, I tip my cap to you.
I don't only watch amazing things. I'm just saying that it's pretty fucking easy to... sometimes you can judge a book by its cover. None of us believed that Puppet Master Axis Termination was going to be good, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you were saying that we are going to watch garbage regardless. No, I would never ever have watched Puppet Master Axis Termination unless it was like for a show. So I absolutely do not just sit around
we
watching
watched
things.
666 Demon Child together, Steve.
We were in our 20s. We were fucking stupid. And maybe I am older and things have changed, but no, I and this is maybe just a me thing. If it's just me watching something for my own personal entertainment, it's not to watch it with a friend or watch it to do a show. I will not watch anything unless I believe beforehand that I'm going to enjoy it. Now, maybe I end up being wrong. Maybe it looked good in the trailer, and then it was a dumpster fire when I watched it. But I will never, ever look at something and say, that looks stupid, let me push play of my own volition. If I'm doing that, I'm doing it for a purpose to hang out with a friend or watch a show. I will form an opinion before I watch it, and hopefully I get it right.
Fair.
I'm sort of with you. I'm sort of the same. I do enjoy watching bad movies though. So I'll watch bad movies if it's like, oh, it's more like I think I'll enjoy this. But if it's something where I'm like, this does not look appealing to me, like of course I'll watch it.
The end.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Fallout.
All right, Fallout. Yeah, let's do it. What's the question?
Just did we watch the trailer? That's like Matt and I are gonna like fanboy the fuck out about Fallout when it comes out.
The trailer is incredible. The trailer looks amazing. It looks exactly how I would want a Fallout television show to look. It's, it hits all of the right notes. You got your Mr. Handys in there. They're cracking that sort of classic Fallout humor. Was it Walter Goggins? Is that his name? In there is sort of like the ghoul. Looks awesome. Now, my trepidation is I did not like Westworld. So Alyssa was a big fan of Westworld. I did not like Westworld, and the same people behind Westworld are doing Fallout. But even though I was burned by the creators on Westworld, I'm still going to watch this and cross my fingers that it's awesome and amazing. I hope it's awesome and amazing. And the other kind of concerning thing is they're dropping the entire series all at once, which I find is a little odd because it seems like all of the streamers now are going to, like, we drop one episode a week to keep everybody sort of like subscribed, right? And I don't know if maybe somebody in the chat who watched that Lord of the Rings thing, who watched Lord of the Rings on Amazon, did they do that? Did they drop all of Lord of the Rings all on the same day?
It was weekly, I think, or in batches at least.
Okay, so it kind of concerns me that they're deciding to drop everything all at once. It reminds me of like when movie studios do not allow reviews to be released until like the night before the movie comes out, like on a Friday.
Is it an Amazon thing?
Yeah. Amazon's doing it. That's why I would mention the Lord of the Rings, because I thought that was a weekly thing that they did.
Makes sense.
So
that makes sense.
I don't know, but I'm gonna say
very
go ahead.
Very different how they do it from show to show on Amazon.
Maybe, yeah. I don't have Amazon right now, so I don't really know. I don't watch anything on Amazon.
Right.
I just remember the Lord of the Rings thing being week to week, I thought. And Wheel of Time, wasn't Wheel of Time week to week?
I think so as well, yes.
So yeah, I don't know. Steve, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to binge this thing right along with you. What are your thoughts on the trailer?
Hell yes. It looks great. I cannot wait for this show. I might take that day off work and just wake up early and start going through it. Matt and I, we have tentative plans to, record our thoughts and put it out there into the world. I don't know how we're gonna. Are we gonna binge it and then talk about the entire series that night, or are we gonna do this episode by episode? I am excited. How
many episodes is it? Do we know?
8.
Okay, so we're looking at probably 7 to 8 hours worth of content. I doubt they're all over an hour long. I mean, I'll binge it. I'll binge the whole fucking thing.
Yeah, all right. I'm going to request that day off work, get up early, and just absorb Fallout. Yeah, I'd never watched Westworld, so I have no concept of what... I have no concept of what those people that made that show are capable of. But, I mean, they nailed the trailer. Like, it's got to be like an all-time... For me, like, an all-time... great trailer for just like hooking me and making me excited to see this. I mean, everything in there just looks like classic, amazing Fallout, and I can't wait.
Even the music. I mean, they used the classic music from the Fallout games, and I guess let me ask you that. Well, first, how big of a Fallout fan are you? Do you play the games quite a bit, or are you just kind of like?
I played all the single player games. I tapped out of Fallout 76 really early.
Oh, that's too bad. It's an amazing game.
Look, introduced NPCs at some point. I'm like, okay, we'll give this a go, and it was still like a little too rough for me. I'm sure if I play it now, I'll have an all right time. But like so much. I don't know. I felt like it was missing it didn't have what I was looking for with Fallout, I guess.
Sure.
And I had the same problem with the Elder Scrolls Online, right? Like I think I like these games when I am the special one and not have a billion other people running around also being the special ones, if that makes sense.
Sure. So, are you excited for the show?
I am. I'm not crazy about Westworld either.
Okay. See,
But
Alyssa loved Westworld. She thought it was great. I watched the first season and I tapped out after the first season.
yeah, same.
Didn't like it.
But I feel like a lot of my problems with Westworld probably aren't going to translate to Fallout because I felt like a lot of Westworld just didn't go anywhere, like with the mystery and with like it was just meandering in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess I'm just hoping that Fallout will be different. I don't see Fallout as like a mystery story. Like I know that world. I know, what's going on, so to speak.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a question, Steve. What if, in this hypothetical scenario, we're binge watching Fallout and you get 4 episodes in and you're hating it? Are you going to finish out the series or are you going to stop?
If we
At what point do you say this is not? I don't like it. I'm bailing. Or are you just going to finish the whole thing out?
If we have already committed to doing a show, I will finish it. If we were not planning on doing a show, I would absolutely just be like no and stop. That goes back to my argument about like there's an infinite amount of entertainment out there. Like, why would I force myself to watch something I'm not into when there's an infinite number of things that I would be into? And that's kind of like we had this kind of a very similar conversation like last year on an episode of Two Matts, One Steve, and like I presented the idea of is it even acceptable for a form of entertainment, movie, TV show, whatever, to just be okay? And like I pitched the argument that if a show or whatever you're watching wasn't great, maybe you wasted your time because almost assuredly there was something out there that is great that you could have watched instead.
It's an interesting conversation because the more, but is there an infinite number of things for you personally though?
I don't know.
Because that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like not only is it, there could be, for example, there's thousands of movies, right, that are considered great. So you could be like, yes, go back and watch, The Big Sleep or hundreds of movies from the 1940s. They're all great. Go back and watch them. You could spend your time watching these things. But if you're not interested, like you said, in any of these things, then it's not really an infinite number of stuff. I mean, it's got to be an infinite number of things that you like. Right?
Even if there is a cap, I feel like I could guarantee that I haven't seen it all yet. I could go get it if I wanted to. I mean, could I easily find it? I have no idea.
Yeah. But do you not watch stuff for, like, comfort? Like, oh, this isn't great, but I like it.
No.
Okay.
See, that's kind of weird to me. I mean, it's just weird. And
I have a lot of those.
I'm not saying it's weird in a bad way.
Like, give me an
it's weird for me
example.
to understand.
Because, like, if I am watching it, like, I probably do think it's great on some level. I mean, it might not win any awards, but there's something about it that, to me, like, I consider great.
Okay,
so that recontextualizes the
Aqua
the
Teen
thing
Hunger
that you're
Force.
saying a little bit.
I fucking love Aqua Teen Hunger Force. It is some of the dumbest shit ever put on television, but it scratches this like absurdist itch for me that in my opinion that like makes it great, even if like most people would look at a show about a talking milkshake and box of fries and think this is fucking stupid and they would immediately dismiss it.
I think it's fair. That's fair, because I was looking at it from, I guess, a different perspective when you were talking about great. I'm still thinking, like, we're talking about the pillars of art here.
No, okay,
right?
no.
Like, what's considered the masterpiece.
Let's call it like great for you.
Okay, well that makes sense.
That makes much more sense then. Because I was going to say, like, well, yeah, I love Cannibal Campout. That's a piece of shit movie. There's nothing great about that movie at all, but I love it, right? For all kinds of various reasons. The time in my life that I saw it, how it affected me on different levels. So I agree with you. If it's something that you can find great about it, there's something in it that you love, then there will be an infinite number of things. So could you relate that to, for me, I'm just talking about me personally, for Star Wars, right? It's, no matter how bad some of the stuff gets, there's always going to be something in there for me, right? There's always going to be fundamental things in these stories that I really, really enjoy. So yeah, like, for example, Last Jedi, fucking hate it. But I don't think the relationship between Rey and Kylo Ren in that movie is bad. I think it's actually good. Rise of Skywalker, that's a little harder for me to find anything redeeming
It tried to undo
to be
Episode
honest.
8. That's the only good thing about it.
Yeah, that's a little harder. But, for example, even in Obi-Wan, or even Boba Fett, for example, when we did that whole sort of episode-by-episode thing of Boba Fett, at the end of it, I said, I don't think it's that bad. There's still stuff in here I like. I love Episode 2, for example. Did they make a ton of shitty decisions within it? Yes. Were they decisions I'd make if I was the creators? No. But there was still a lot in there that I personally really loved and enjoyed. So could you say, like, for me, I'm going to love the Star Wars stuff, and there's always going to be something there for me to love, and that's why I sort of gravitate towards this particular thing.
Yeah,
like a lot of the
100%.
Marvel stuff, for example, I don't care about the Marvel stuff, but I love Star Wars. It's a passion. I love that stuff.
I never said that you should abandon Star Wars. I never understood why you couldn't accept that I was abandoning it.
Well, hopefully we've settled that now.
Yeah, this will never be brought up again, surely.
Never.
No, the canon conversation that will never happen on stream is what will
Jeff's,
never go
Jeff's
away.
wrong about the canon conversation. Jeff's a stickler for language, and language and words and definitions and meanings change all the fucking time, man.
He says that
always
I'm abusing the word great like you abuse the word canon. So hopefully I specify great for me.
Jeff is just one of these people that he's got a hard line, like this means this, and it can't mean anything else in any other context, and I disagree with that. I think things change all the time, but I'm going to save that for my watercolor dissertation.
You still got to make.
Now.
All right, like the 5 people watching, like tell me how great this title is for like a conversation about canon that also involves Star Wars. Slave 1 to canon. Like that's great, right? I watched Andor so that we would do something with that title, and like that has not been paid off yet, and I'm very disappointed.
Okay. Well, Steve, I do not want to disappoint you. You're a dear friend. How do you want to set this? Was your idea. How do you want this to go? Like, what do you want us to do with Slave 1 to canon?
I want us to talk about world news constantly.
Oh, wow. We can do that after the election. Because there's a finite time that I'm doing this no news sabbatical. Election night, I'll be happy to do whatever you want to do.
Well, potentially there's an infinite amount of time that I will not have a spark for Star Wars. But hey, if it ever changes, I'll be looking for that curated list of the Bad Batch. All I can say, Andor, kind of overrated. Like it was good, did not reignite my love for the series.
That's fine. That's fine. You're wrong, but I respect your opinion. You still watched it. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I did the thing to support you.
Yes. Yes, you did. Absolutely. And I will
It's
do
a
the
very
Slave 1 to
one-sided
canon
friendship.
thing. I will do the Slave 1 to canon thing to support you. I literally just said I would. And if you want to talk about world news, I will just do it after the election. I have committed to you right now the Slave 1 to canon. I just need to know what your show idea is. What do you want me to do?
I don't have one. Like this was.
Well, that's the problem.
This was going to be your show. I specifically said I wanted Matt to do Slave 1 to canon, not Steve to do it.
Maybe I can.
I just
turn my
wanted
watercolor
you
thing into Slave One.
Yeah, I wanted you to explain your thoughts on canon. But not right now. Like, I will leave this stream.
For the love of God.
For the love of God, not right now. Getting back to Fallout, Steve, what do you want to see in this show? Like your ideal sort of, not necessarily like give me a plot of what you want, but like the main things that you want this Fallout TV show to do for it to be a success for you.
I honestly have no idea because every game is so. All right, so let me. All right, this is something that I want them to do. I have no idea if they will. It will not impact my. It will not impact my enjoyment of the show one way or the other. Every Fallout game is its own story. They all take place in the same world, and maybe, maybe there's some cameos. Like I know, like the main character from Fallout 1 is like the grandparent of the main character in Fallout 2. But otherwise, like every story can stand alone. I think it would be cool to explicitly set this show within the world of the games and tell a unique story. But the fact that it seems like this is taking place in California, where all of the early Fallouts did, I feel like that they're maybe just going to. I don't know. I think they're just going to like rehash Fallout. I could be completely wrong.
I feel like I read somewhere in an article that Todd Howard said that this will be canon to the Fallout universe, I guess, using the word canon, right?
Yeah.
Just following around in the playground that they've established.
Yeah, and that's what I want. I want like every like whatever vault. Like I want like a brand new vault. Like don't give me a vault that we've seen in the games. Give me a brand new, entirely unique story set within that world. If I want to watch, if I want to see the Fallout 1 story again, I can go get a Let's Play. Like, give me something new but set in the same universe.
I agree with that. I think, just based on the trailer alone, it seems like there's new creatures we haven't seen before and new stuff going on. Borp, what would you like to see from this Fallout game to make it, or TV show to make it a success for you?
Definitely with Steve, I want a new story. I would also want, like, different locations, like some sort of journey to take place. Because all of the games is like, okay, this takes place in this one location, and I think it would be cool to have some sort of rogue thing within the Fallout universe. That would be very different from all the games.
Give me a vault in like Oklahoma. Like put a vault in a state that we haven't seen in the games before.
Okay. I kind of want. I mean, this might just be kind of like the fanboy in me, but I want to make sure they hit all the classes. I want a Deathclaw battle in there somewhere. I want to see. And I don't know where did. So Fallout 3 takes place in Washington D.C., right?
Right.
Fallout 4 or New Vegas takes place in obviously Nevada.
I was going to say, please get this one.
Is there a California component to it though? Like the NCR is in there and stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah,
God! I just folded a pair of aces. What the fuck? No!
Oh fuck! All right, I have an ace in my hand, so I am gonna fold because you've given me information that I shouldn't have.
Oh no!
All right, I'm gonna be very upset.
One of those aces was a heart too, so if one more heart comes out, I'm just gonna.
All right, well, I'm folding, so I am not cheating. I'm folding as soon as I get the opportunity. But yeah, I think in New Vegas, I don't think you go to California. I think the NCR was just expanding east.
Okay. I haven't played New Vegas in quite a while, so I should go back and replay that. But yeah,
Agreed.
So has there been other than the original Fallout and Fallout 2? Those are the only ones that have taken place in California, right?
I think so. I think you're
76 is West Virginia, and the word Fallout 4 take place.
Boston.
Boston, that's right. Yeah, Boston. Okay, so yeah. Yeah,
when is the Brotherhood? because it looks like the Brotherhood's going to be like a big part of this game, and also that shit, maybe how long ago in the lore? Because I am not a Fallout lore expert by any means. I've only watched playthroughs of Part 1 and 2. Like my actual gaming experience started with 3. Like how long has the Brotherhood like had like airships? Because they show like something Pridwin adjacent in the trailer. Yeah,
looks like the Pridwin.
So maybe this takes place in California, but significantly after Fallout 1 and 2.
Yeah, I don't know because technically, Fallout 76 the first in the timeline?
Yes,
technically.
Yes.
So, yeah, because I'm wondering, are we going to get super mutants in this show?
I would think so.
Are we going to get the explanation of how the super mutants sort of came about here?
Every Fallout game, well, I think maybe 1 and 2 have the same super mutants, but otherwise, Fallout 3 and New Vegas and 4 and 76, they all have different explanation for where the super mutants came from. In every place where a Fallout game has taken place, there is some sort of some sort of evil organization fucking around with the FEV that made their own unique super mutants.
Yeah.
So I don't think I think if we got an origin for super mutants in this show, it would just be those super mutants. That wouldn't impact the Master super mutants or the Vault 76 super mutants.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think the main plot of this is going to be? Is there going to be a big bad? We didn't really see a big bad in the trailer.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that something in the vault broke. The main character went out to get it, and she will come across a big bad. That seems to be how the majority of them start.
I think whoever the actress is that's playing the protagonist, the main protagonist of this, she's got gigantic eyes. And I think it's good casting because it's when they show her coming out of the vault or she's wandering around, she just looks so wide-eyed and freaked out and panicked by the world around her. It's good casting just in terms of how her face and the reaction she can make to the world. This makes it much more believable. So good casting on that. But yeah, what is that? April 11th? That's just
April 11th.
That's a month away, man. It's a month away.
I've had a week off work to play Final Fantasy. When I go back to work next Tuesday, I'm immediately going to request off April 11th.
What is April 11th? Is it a Tuesday?
It's a Thursday, I think.
Thursday. Okay, so they're giving people the whole weekend to binge it.
Yeah,
so
I will only need a day. Yeah, that may or may not be the birthday of an Outpost Unknown member. We'll see how he feels about it.
I just saw that on the calendar. I just flipped my calendar and I saw that. May or may not be.
But it probably is. But we will not out him in case he cares. Yeah, I'm all in on Fallout. I'm trying to think are there any other shows coming out this year that I care about? I mean,
did you watch Shogun at all?
I have not. That's on my to-do list. But again, this week I took a week off to play Final Fantasy VII, so that's Shogun can wait. I think the Boys season 4, second half of Invincible season 2 is basically I'm just watching Amazon shit all year.
It's weird that there's so much superhero content and stuff still pumping and coming out.
Just not from the big players Marvel and DC. No one cares anymore, I guess.
I think Deadpool 3 is going to be big.
Yeah.
Probably. I do. I think that's going to be the movie that gets all of the people to go back out. Now, if Deadpool 3... Now, personally, I don't even like the first 2 Deadpool movies. I don't like the Deadpool character. I don't like any of that stuff. But I understand why people love the Deadpool movies so much. If that fails... If Deadpool 3 fails and people come out saying that was trash, it was just bad, I don't know how the MCU comes back from something like that. I kind of feel like Deadpool 3 is the last chance, at least in the foreseeable future, that people are going to give the MCU. There's a lot riding on Ryan Reynolds' shoulders.
Yeah.
in
Those
my
first
opinion.
2 movies were really successful. I'm sure this is.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna say I think this is like Marvel's last surefire hit.
Possibly,
Are
yeah,
they in
because
like
like
full reboot territory if this bombs?
Right. I mean,
well, yeah, well, I think it was you, Steve, that just said, "Hey, at the end of Endgame, the MCU should have just ended,
yep.
and then
Totally.
just start brand new stories again in a different universe.
Yeah,
Start
and
from scratch and go all over again."
all right. I mean, that's another topic. Like, I've had this thought recently, and the Marvel. I was always a Marvel fan. I never gave a shit about DC outside of like I like Batman and the DC animated universe was great, but I very rarely like engaged in the actual comics from them. Uh, I used to give them shit because it seems like DC has had like 6 different continuity reboots at this point. Because they had the Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then like 3 or 4 other Crisis stories, and Flashpoint, and the New 52. Like they kept rebooting their continuity, and I used to shit on them for that. But I was thinking recently about Marvel Comics and how like the way that time works in Marvel Comics is like,
Yeah,
even though like Spider-Man came out 60 years ago in real time, in universe it's only been like 15 years. Like the start point of the universe just keeps moving forward in time. But if you put any ounce of thought into that, like I mean, we're talking like the Earth must average like 4 alien invasions a year. Like a big deal in the X-Men universe recently is they got their own island nation of Krakoa, and now they got that a few years back in real time, and now they've lost it in universe. Like the way time works, like what do they have
yeah.
the island for? Like a week and a half? And like I got to thinking like maybe DC is doing it right. Maybe the only way you can make sense out of this is to just flip the switch on a new universe every so often.
Maybe. I just Googled Marvel time. The first thing that pops up says it has been suggested that Marvel's timescale works at a rate of 4 years in the real world equals 1 year for the Marvel Universe. So based on this and the start of the sliding timescale being the Fantastic Four's launch, approximately 15 and a half years has passed since then to now. So there's only been almost essentially 16 years from the beginning of when the Fantastic Four appeared till now.
And that just like I get what they're going for. They were never gonna let Spider-Man age in real time and die of old age.
Yeah.
But maybe at some point you got to leave Earth 616 and go somewhere else and start telling stories there because you've done and this is going back to the canon conversation, like a point that Matt has made before that I agree with is like canon can be a detriment. I agree to that, and I think it's definitely a detriment when you've got to like somehow figure out how 60 years of real world stories could have possibly happened. And man,
But
Marvel rebooted.
Even when DC reboots stuff, they still fuck things up that they can't fix. Like
I
with
didn't
the
say
new
they did
52.
it correctly. I'm
Well,
just
like with
saying.
well, weren't you the one who was saying with the new 52? Like, there's now like 4 Robins in the span of like 6 months or something that
Oh yeah,
Batman allegedly would
that
have
was
had.
like my favorite Batman fact for a long time. Like, so every time DC reboots, which I get, my argument is a reboot might be the correct thing to do. Whether or not DC did it successfully is another matter. But yeah, they rebooted DC continuity at one point. It might be the new 52. I don't know. But basically, every time DC reboots, they keep the good story. They keep the stories from the previous world, air quotes, that people liked, and they just shoehorn them into the new universe, and then they scrub everything else away. But Robin is a popular character, and so they kept all the Robins, and at that point there had been 4. You had Dick Grayson and Jason Todd and Tim Drake and Damian Wayne, and they established that you know the age of superheroes in this new DC world is only about 5 years old. And so someone did the math, and it's like Batman went through a Robin every like 15 months up to this point. And I think at
Yeah.
some point DC had to like retcon things and say, oh no, like Batman, just Batman started earlier than all the other superheroes to iron out that little wrinkle.
See, that's part of my problem. Is I think why I'm so, I guess, maybe apathetic towards quote unquote canon for all of this stuff is that none of this stuff is set in stone at all. When you have these perpetual IPs that there will be an infinite number of stories and an infinite number of creators constantly doing new things in, it's literally impossible to keep everything straight and keep everything like this is exactly how it was, this is how it all happens and everything like that. So I kind of look at this stuff as like this is all meaningless, right? So yeah, they made this giant fuck up with Batman. Like, okay, well, I guess that didn't happen. We're just going to change it to this. Well, then, like, in 6 months, somebody else is going to come in like, you know what, I didn't like what they did there. I'm just going to change this to this. And then eventually someone won't like that, and they'll change that. So I guess from my perspective, like, this whole idea of canon, I'm talking specifically with these perpetual IP properties. Your Marvels, your DCs, your Star Wars, your whatever, Power Rangers will go on forever. You're never
It's actually
going...
not. It just ended.
There'll be another one that pops up. It'll happen. It just there's no way to ever sort of take any of this stuff seriously. It was really funny. Like, it reminds me of Logan. So Alyssa and I went to Logan when it came out in the movie theaters, and one of the reasons I went to go see that movie was because Hugh Jackman, that was his last ride as Wolverine. He was done. Him and Patrick Stewart came out and swore up and down they would never do another comic movie. This was the perfect send-off. And so I'm watching Logan, like the movie quite a bit, gets to the end, and Wolverine dies, right? And I had told Alyssa, I was like, that's it. Hugh Jackman's done. And she looked at me when that movie was over in the theater, and she's like, no, he's not. He'll be back. This isn't the end. Of course he's going to be back, because she's like, none of this stuff matters. They tell you one thing, and then they immediately change it when someone wants to make some money here, or someone wants to make money there, or some creator wants to change a story here. And guess what? As soon as she saw the Deadpool 3 trailer, she was like, I told you. And I was like, I can't argue. And I've sort of like come to her side on this stuff, because she's also very similar. She's like, none of this matters. None of it. You can say this is the canon of whatever, and 2 weeks later someone else will say, no, I'm changing it. Now this is the canon of, this is the way things have gone. No. Now this, I don't buy any of it. I don't. When I say canon is bullshit, this is what I mean. They can say anything, and I'm not sort of beholden to any of these liars. That's all these people do.
Are
is
you
lie.
under the impression
Bullshit.
that, like, Logan? I mean, what was Logan canon to? Like, it could not have taken place in any of the other, like, X-Men movies world. So, like, you're.
I don't think so. Oh, go ahead, Warp.
Well,
You're
okay.
trying to get in there.
Yeah, I was just okay. I'm with Matt on this. I think on this whole thing, I've always been on your side. Let the record
Be
show.
still my beating heart.
Okay, like Halloween, such a shit show of timeline and everything. But like when the Halloween 2018 came out, they're like, okay, nothing except the first film matters anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, I heard that, and I'm like, well, I mean, Halloween 2, obviously not as great as Halloween, but I thought it was kind of a neat continuation that they actually...
I love 4. I think Halloween 4 is awesome.
Yeah, I love 4 as well. Like, I think the whole family storyline is like, I mean, it's not necessary for that first film, but if you want a reason why Michael Myers is coming to this hospital to get her, like, yeah, sure, make her, like, it's a kind of a throwaway line of, like, him being or her being his sister, right? But like, I thought that was kind of a neat way to continue it. And then they're like, no, that doesn't matter. And I'm like, well, damn it, I kind of like that, actually. I kind of like that. And so now they do these 3 movies, and they're not related. and Halloween ends. It's this big finale, fucking throw Mike Myers into the fucking meat grinder. He's never coming back. Like, yeah, sure, okay, they're never gonna make another Halloween movie again. Yeah, sure,
yeah.
okay. So like. And now they're talking about making a Halloween TV series, and who knows if that gets off the ground? Probably not. But like, those people are already saying like nothing matters. We're going back to the original, and so they're like going to do the same exact thing again. So it's like, okay, well, what canon here matters? You can sort of pick your own continuity.
Yeah, like there's like multiple, but that's the thing, like there's multiple continuities. Every one of those continuities like has a canon. I'm not saying there's only going to be one storyline and that's it. So let me give you.
We are expected to remember infinite amounts of canon from infinite amounts of timelines, is what you're saying.
No,
right?
let me show you. Let me show you like a bad example of like what drives me nuts in regards to canon. I loved like X-Men 1 and 2, like the Fox movies, from the early 2000s. Loved X-Men and X2. They're set in the same world. There's a few continuity errors, but it's very clear that like X-Men 1 leads into X-Men 2. And then a decade goes by and X-Men 3 does really bad, and so they put out X-Men First Class. And X-Men First Class cannot possibly happen in the same world as X-Men 1 and 2. And yet, Bryan Singer or whatever fucker made that, it's like, oh yeah, this is a prequel. This absolutely happened. And it's like, that is my. So canon matters in the sense that if you respect canon, your stories will make more sense. When you say canon doesn't matter, I feel like you are giving people a blank check to tell nonsense stories.
Well, a nonsense story doesn't. Yeah, that's one of my point is they're already kind of nonsense. Like fundamentally, all of this is nonsense, right? So, for example, within your thing with I haven't watched the X-Men movies in forever, so I don't remember all the different permutations. But you admitted, like even from 1 to 2, there's continuity errors. It doesn't make sense logically if you're going to look at these things from film to film, story to story, whatever. I'm saying all of this is ultimately bullshit. All of it. Every story that someone comes up with, you're never going to have in a perpetual IP where you have these characters where they want to continue all of this shit. You're never going to have it all fit forever. It won't. So ultimately, it all matters for naught. It's all for naught.
Oh, I agree. It's going to be impossible to keep 60 years of storyline straight, but there needs to be an attempt. And if you're going to explicitly change something, acknowledge that. But like, you
told me, Steve, one of your big arguments against my perspective was you're like, look, canon is whatever the owner wants it to be. If Disney says this is what happened and this is the way it is, I have to accept it. So don't you just have to accept what Bryan Singer told you? He's the creator. They said that's what the canon was.
They said that's what the canon was, but then they fucked the canon, and that makes me not want to watch it anymore.
Yeah, so because the canon doesn't matter.
It does,
that's my point.
But it will matter if it will matter if you give a shit. And like when you say canon doesn't matter, none of this matters. Tell whatever story you want. Like that's how you get instances where like in episode 1 like a character died, and in episode 2 like they're just back with no explanation. Like that is not respecting this canon. That's not respecting the story that came before you. Like it's entirely like the Bryan Singer says that a story that can't possibly be canon is canon. Cool, I accept that, but I'm tapping out on your series now.
Yeah, and see what I can just say is I just refuse it. Like where you accept it, I just refuse it. I'm like, no, Aliens, Colonial Marines is not the canon continuation of Aliens.
Right.
It's just fucking not. And I don't give a shit if Fox or Disney or whoever says, yes, we gave a bunch of money to these stupid creators and this is what they're saying in order to sell this product, to sell more video games, they have to say this. So therefore you must accept it. All I'm saying is, like, I don't accept it. I am under no obligation to accept any of that shit. So where it super bothers you because you feel like you have to accept it, and so every little problem that comes and the dominoes that fall because of those decisions, I'm saying I don't have that problem because I just delete it. I'm like, okay, fine, this is something else. I don't have to accept your version of canon, right? Just because you own the property or you're trying to tell me this is how it is. Who are you to tell me what the fuck this is? This is going to change the next creator that comes along 5 years down the road. They're going to retcon all this bullshit anyway because none of it matters. I do not have to accept your stupid bullshit just because you're the company and that's what you tell me I have to do. And you extrapolate this all the way to the end game when all of this shit, when nobody owns any of this shit anymore, right? At a certain point in time down the road, 100 years down the road, Disney ain't even going to own these characters anymore. They're all going to be in the fucking public domain. Then what does canon mean? Canon means nothing because there is no owner. We all own these stories. And so I look at ownership of a property different than you. So where you come at it and it's like, oh my God, I busted out. Wasn't even paying attention. Where you look at it in terms of Disney owns it, They when I say like you're a slave to canon, what I mean when I say that is, well, you just do and believe whatever Disney is telling you. This is how it is, so I must believe it. I reject that thinking because I know down the line Disney ain't even going to own this shit. I'm going to own it. If I'm still alive in 100 years, I will own it. And then does Slave One to Canon, my podcast, when someone pops it up on YouTube 100 years down the line and like, all right, that's how it actually happened because no one owns this shit anymore. I don't when I talk about canon, I completely divorce ownership of a property and whatever CEO is in charge and made some stupid fucking decision to hand some money over to some dude to write Obi-Wan poorly. I delete. No, didn't happen. Don't care. You can tell me all you want that that's what actually happened and how Obi-Wan and Darth Vader really faced each other in that stupid fucking way and Darth Vader couldn't pull him through the fire a second time because it was too hot. You can tell me that till you're blue in the face and I'm going to look at you and I'm going to be like, fuck off. Didn't happen. I don't care. I just don't care. And that is the difference from our perspectives, I think.
Yeah, we are completely different because
Yes.
I accept that that's the story that the owners, they say that this happened in the main Star Wars universe. I say, okay, then I'm done. Like I will just step away from that. Like that affects my enjoyment when you just have crazy continuity errors. Like I can dismiss minor stuff, but when you tell me that something that can't possibly happen is canon, cool. I'll respect it.
Yeah.
But I'm going elsewhere.
I won't respect it. I'm not going to respect these idiots. That's the thing. Like I look at this, I'm like, fuck you. You don't deserve my respect. You didn't give a shit enough to pay attention to like writing proper character development and in doing these things. That's fine. You can make all the bullshit you want, but I don't have to respect you and then suddenly in my mind I have to accept the crap that you gave me. I'm going to flip my middle finger off at you and be like, no, done. Moving on to the next thing, and I'm not accepting what you're telling me.
No, can't do it. I can't.
See, that's weird to me. That's weird to me. I don't understand
I mean, I'm capable of telling myself that didn't happen, but to me, it's like I feel like I shouldn't have to do that. Like, if I am,
you shouldn't.
If I am enjoying a property, like I shouldn't have to say, okay, story A and B and C happened, but story D didn't, and then I'm back on board with story E, and I just won't do it. I feel like I am doing the job of the storyteller at that point. I feel like I am being asked to fix their story, and I just won't. I'll just disengage from the product rather than create my own personal timeline in my head of what happened and what didn't happen.
That's fair. That's fair. But Borp, I think you were trying to get in there earlier. Did you have a comment?
No,
Sorry, Borp.
No, it's okay. The moment's passed.
Yeah, I guess fundamentally, I have not just with like the canon conversation and stuff, but fundamentally as just a human being. You know, I'm now in my 40s, and earlier on in my life, I was much like you, Steve, where I would have been very bothered about this kind of stuff, and I would have raged about it on our podcast and things of that nature. But I feel like I've gotten to this point in my life now where I'm like, I don't have to take this bullshit anymore. Like I'm under no obligation for these faceless people in suits who greenlight stupid shit and things that I like and enjoy. I'm under no obligation to accept the crap that they're giving me. And, you know, I came to that realization, I don't know how long ago it was. It was pre Obi-Wan and all this Star Wars stuff. It was just one of those things I was thinking about it. God, what the hell was it? Maybe it was Halloween, Borp. Now that you're talking about it, maybe it was Halloween that sort of like, because I love the original Halloween.
Yep.
Love it. And yeah, the David Gordon Green comes out and is like, actually, no. Halloween is the sequel to Halloween, and everything else is now gone. I decree this is the way it is because I'm the author of this new product, and guess what? Whoever fucking owns Halloween now is behind me 100%. So fuck everybody who has followed this, whole storyline. It matters not, right?
Yeah.
Blink. It's in the ether now. It no longer is quote unquote canon.
Well, see, no. Now you just have a multiverse like everything else.
No. That's not it. That's not it though, because they literally they say no. None of those other films matter. We have the blessing of John Carpenter. He says this is the right. He says that now we're finally doing it right. Even though he did the exact same thing with the original Halloween 2. Like he was involved with that movie.
Yeah.
He wrote that movie.
They didn't come out and say there's now a branching multiverse of Halloween stuff. They said this is what.
I mean,
but
fine.
see, that's the thing. Well,
you can't like the movie is out there. You can't.
No.
You can't make it disappear.
But Steve, then Obi-Wan's a multiversal Star Wars tale.
Not according to the people that made it.
Doesn't matter.
No, you have the owner explicitly saying that now there is a new continuity.
It doesn't matter.
I respect
Steve, in 100 years, when the ownership of Obi-Wan transfers to the public domain, is it no longer canon?
I don't know.
Is it only canon for a finite amount of time? That's my point. All of these stories and all of this quote-unquote ownership right now of this is what this person says this and this person says that, it's all bullshit. It's fundamentally bullshit because every story you can't – yet on a technical, practical level, yes, you can own a story. So Disney puts out Mandalorian Season 3. They own Mandalorian Season 3. In 100 years from now, when the copyright has expired and they lose the rights and it goes into the public domain and Disney doesn't own Mandalorian Season 3 anymore, can I then say, well, 100 years has gone by, now I technically own the Mandalorian Season 3 and it didn't happen? To me, that just proves the point that all of this shit with ownership and what this person tells you must accept is crap. It's garbage. Why are we putting this arbitrary constraint on this stuff? Why are we accepting this trash media that people didn't spend any time on just because I'm beholden to the creator and the owner of the product in the here and now, and I cannot tell them to fuck off. I can't do it. I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, fuck you. No, none of this matters.
I'm on the opposite end. I will not fix someone else's story. I will just disengage. And so for me, canon is very important. If you want me to stay on board with your story, you tell us gaping massive plot holes. And if
that's
you
fair.
don't respect the canon and you choose to do that, Cool. I'll buy. I'll say, hey, you know what? According to the person that owns this, this is what happens now. Fine. I'll spend my time elsewhere.
And that's fine, but let me tell you this scenario. So your whole thing here is like, well, I don't want to have to create a new story in my mind as to what actually happened. So what if you just deleted that from your mind? So you watch Obi-Wan and you're like, yeah, I'm not going to create. I don't know what Obi-Wan did during this time, but he didn't do this. I'm not going to create a new story of what he did, but I'm just going to be like, nah, didn't matter. Didn't happen that way. Just didn't happen that way, but I'm not going to artificially create a whole new timeline in my head and what he was doing during that. Is that okay?
Yeah, I don't care. Go for it. I'm not going to do that. I am just going to disengage rather than make any fixes to someone else's story. But you have told me that you have had a story idea in your head for how to fix episodes 8 and 9 so that inevitably when episode 10 comes out, you will tell yourself that your version of 8 and 9 happened rather than what we saw on screen. I can't do that. I cannot do that.
Story's a story no matter who's writing it.
Don't care.
It's still a story.
I will not write a story and tell myself that my story happened to fix someone else's continuity. I can't. I can't do it. Okay. I will just move on.
Yeah, and that's just the difference between you and I. I find it very simple to be like, yeah, well, you're showing me this visual image, but that's not the visual image in my mind. And I don't give a fuck if you're telling me that's how it happened. I don't have to accept your version of anything. I look at stories. I think Neil Gaiman has spoke really well to this, where it's just like stories. They morph, they mutate, they change depending on the time that they're told, depending who's telling them, depending on who quote unquote owns them. A story is just something that any of us can make, and you know. I choose to, you know, for example, I'm very passionate about Star Wars. I don't give a shit about Marvel, right? So, you know, Borp, when he loved Marvel, perhaps Borp did this. Perhaps Borp was like, man, this would be a really cool story, or maybe I'm fixing this if they had done something a little different. I don't care. I'm not passionate about that. I am very passionate about Star Wars. It's impossible for me to not think of stories when it comes to Star Wars. Even when I'm watching stuff I love, like I will watch Andor and I love it, and I'm thinking to myself when I'm watching it, it'd been cooler if they would have done this, would have been cooler if they would have been done that. So it's impossible for me to not think of stories. So yes, when I saw Last Jedi and I saw Rise of Skywalker, I'm already thinking of ways in which what they could have done to improve it. You know, we would leave the movies and talk about what they could have done to improve it. They should have made Luke Skywalker do X, Y, and Z. It would have made 1,000 times more sense. It would have stayed within character. Yes, absolutely. That's the story. But that's how the story actually plays out.
Oh, no, I can't do that. That's so bizarre to me. Like, I absolutely will say, yeah, I wish they would have done this. But when episode 10 comes out, I am not going to tell myself that episode 10 picks up where my story left off instead of the story that we got on the screen. I can't do that. I can't.
Yeah. And that's just the difference between you and I. And I think it's fair. Like, I understand I understand that how I describe this is alien and foreign to most people. Because most people, when I joke, are slaves to canon. That's what it is. People just sort of like, well, this is presented to me. I must accept it as so. It is now gospel that Darth Vader could not pull Obi-Wan back through the fire that he just showed he could do 10 seconds prior. That's now gospel. And I look at things differently. I'm like, no, it ain't. No, it's not. That's stupid. And I can create a story in my mind that makes sense to me. And honestly, I think what it also helps do is now that I'm thinking about this, and you say how, you will watch something and you get burned out. I think that's why I can't get burned out on Star Wars the way you do, because I'm constantly sort of revitalizing. If I see something bad and shitty, I'm rejecting it out of hand. And so when I can accept with myself that I'm rejecting it out of hand, it doesn't bother me anymore, really, because I'm just like, whatever. Like, they told that stupid story. It matters not to me. It matters not. And so making myself sort of immersed in a world like this, I just can't get burned out on it. Whereas I totally understand you can. Now that I think we both kind of understand where we're coming from a lot better, I can understand where you're like, look, this doesn't make sense to me and it drives me crazy. And if it drives me crazy, I'm not having fun and enjoyment with it, and I don't want to participate in it. I totally get that now. And so, yeah, we just look at things from a completely different perspective. But I respect your decision and your perspective for sure.
Matt, I love you, buddy. I respect your dumbass opinion.
I love you as well and your stupid fucking opinions.
All right, well, that was Slave 1 to canon, so now we don't have a reason to record that anymore.
I could just cut that whole section and we'll start the show and we'll just label it Slave 1 to canon.
Oh, no, I can't do it. If the owner of a property tells me that all of their characters just became stupid, I will say, okay. And then I will go do something else.
So all I really need to do then is convince Dave Filoni to publicly come out and say, actually, 8 and 9 are no longer canon.
Yes.
That's all he has to say, and then boom, you're suddenly fine again.
Yes. Let me tell you why that matters. Because
okay. Yes, please.
Because when I'm just going to refer to him as the owner because I don't know what he actually does. Like when the owner of a property comes out and says, you know what, we got this wrong. We told a shitty story, and so recognizing that, we are now going to give you a replacement story. The reason that matters is because when they acknowledge that and they are going to give me a replacement story, odds are that replacement story is going to be very, very different from the story that I already have. And since I hate the story that we already have, the odds go up that I'm going to enjoy the new thing.
Okay, that's fair. Do you have an example of this happening? Like, is there anything you can think of where that has been a thing?
I'd have to think. Nothing's coming to mind right away.
Okay.
That might be because just like we are in like a brand new age of just constant content.
Yeah, and I think that kind of gets back to sort of my point. Like, I think if that were the case, and maybe there are examples out there, I don't know if anyone's still watching this in the chat, but if anyone in the chat has examples where this has actually happened, where an owner has come out and be like, I fucked up, get rid of that, we're going to do this whole thing. Because usually what happens is, would you consider a retcon a tacit admission that they fucked something up?
Yes.
And then, okay.
100%.
So what would be a good example of a retcon, in your opinion?
I was going to mention this earlier. This is like my favorite retcon ever. Many, many years ago, there was a Wolverine story, and I'm talking about the comics, not the movies. There was a Wolverine story where a new bad guy showed up. Like Wolverine started having dreams of wolves, and a new bad guy showed up, and he told Wolverine that there are actually two kinds of mutants. There are mutants that come from humans that evolved from apes or a common ape ancestor. But there's also a completely separate branch of humans that evolved from wolves. And Wolverine is a mutant of that human race. And at some point later on, a character was put in the comics and just told Wolverine, the bad guy was fucking with you. That didn't happen.
That's pretty funny.
So yes, absolutely. That is an explicit acknowledgement that old story is dead and will not be coming back.
Well, until the next creator who loved that story comes
and
around and changes it.
And if they do that, so be it. But I've already tapped out, so I don't care.
Yeah. I see. I think I look at that kind of stuff, and I guess you could maybe even argue a lot of the DC reboots and stuff retcon, infinite numbers of different little
A retcon
details and stuff like that.
is acknowledging that something is changing, and I think that is always good, rather than a change just happening without explanation. Like a character that was dead is suddenly back with no explanation. Like a retcon represents an explanation to fix the continuity.
So I know you haven't watched Star Wars Rebels, obviously,
Nope.
but Dave Filoni created this aspect of the Force called basically it's the world between worlds. It's a whole long thing. Essentially, what it is a way to retcon anything. It's you can watch. They showed a little bit of it in Ahsoka, which you didn't watch that either, right?
Nope. Andor's the last thing I saw.
Okay. There is literally a way, if Dave Filoni were to decree it, where 7, 8, 9, completely different multiverse, essentially.
If he
they don't call it multiverse in Star Wars, but he could do it if he wanted to. If
he pulls the trigger on that, I will give Star Wars a chance, because that is an indication to me that he recognizes that whoever was in charge of Star Wars before him gave us some garbage, and now he's going to fix it. Yes, I would absolutely give Star Wars a chance if they did that. That would pique my interest. That would remove the apathy.
But what if he could come along and fix the problems with the storytelling in the sequels? So, for example, a lot of people hated the prequels and thought that a lot of the stuff that George Lucas did, messed up a lot of the storytelling in that movies. And then, of course, Dave Filoni and George Lucas came along and created the Clone Wars, which filled in all of the gaps. And now people look at those prequels in a completely different light now that they have the full context of the story. So, yes, you'd have to watch 7 seasons of an animated cartoon if someone really wanted to know all that. And I'm not arguing people rush out to go do that or anything. But the point being that even with a bad story, there can still be a creator who comes along and quote-unquote fix the bad story by creating a greater context and the stories underlying that greater story. Would you be opposed to someone doing that? Hello?
Sorry, I hit mute. Sorry, I was talking. I was talking, and no one said
it. I was like, did I hurt you? Like, what happened?
No. So I'm not gonna say never. Like, I would never give that a chance. But in this specific context, the problems of episode 8 and 9 annoyed me so much. Like, it would take a hell of a lot of fixing. Like, I don't know how you could justify Palpatine just being back and trying to... I don't know how
you... this season of Bad Batch, Dave Filoni's already trying to explain it.
Well,
so
good luck
they're already laying the foundation. Foundation.
I don't know what explanation I would accept for Luke just quitting. So I have a very specific problem with episodes 8 and 9. So I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but I mean, I feel like if you tell a story that's terrible and then to fix it you have to do an entirely different show, that still makes me think what, I shouldn't have to do this. I shouldn't. You should have just got it right.
You're not the one. Yeah, but you're not the one telling the story. You're allowing the other creators to come in and essentially fill in the gaps and flesh it out. So
but I'm saying I'm not saying I'm telling the story. I am saying, you told a story so bad, you were demanding another 10 hours of my time to try to get my attention back.
Yeah, but I think you could argue with the Clone Wars it worked.
I liked most of the prequel stuff, so that doesn't faze me.
Yeah. I mean
that's not as good as an explicit retcon, but I would listen to their sales pitch.
You would be open to the possibility.
Yeah, 100%. Because if they think they can find a way to fix the disrespected canon, like I mean, like they made the guy that never quits a quitter. Like you didn't respect the canon when you did that.
Yeah, that's the hard part. I think finding a story solution to how Palpatine returned much easier to do than trying to give an explanation as to why Luke Skywalker quit on his friends and family and wanted to leave them to die.
I mean,
That's
certainly
that's
it would
difficult.
be much easier.
Fuck you, Ryan Johnson.
Yeah,
Fuck you.
certainly it would be much easier for them to just come out and say, you know what, 7, 8, and 9, we're going to replace those stories and give us a new continuity.
Yeah.
I'd be on board with it, but I don't think they ever will. But hey, yeah, if they ever get to the point that if you ever tell me, Steve, they fixed Episode 8 Luke, I will trust you and I will watch whatever that thing is.
Okay. For sure, I will.
So never is when that's going to happen.
Well, if Rachel and I end up at the Star Wars celebration in Tokyo, and with Rachel's access to people, if that ever comes to pass, because she's hangs out with famous people all the time, I will ask Mr. Filoni that. I will ask him, how are you going to fix Luke? Can you fix Luke?
First, you need to ask him. First, you need to ask him, does he agree that Luke needs to be fixed? Because that's going to be very important.
What's interesting about Dave Filoni is now he's
Borp,
been.
I'm sorry that we keep talking about Star Wars.
It's okay.
Yeah. Dave Filoni is now sort of like the chief creative officer at Lucasfilm. So that was his promotion. So ostensibly, he has final say over everything Star Wars now. All the movies coming up, all the stuff that's going to be created to fill in all the gaps in time and everything like that. And so it's going to be very interesting to me to see sort of where Star Wars goes in the future and sort of what they're planning. Because I trust Dave Filoni implicitly. The man's never let us down. So, yeah, I'm glad that he's in charge.
Do it, Filoni.
Do it, Filoni.
Just get rid of
Do it for
episode 7.
Steve.
I will have the utmost respect for you if you just say, you know what, I'm retconning episode 7, 8, and 9. Luke never quit. Palpatine never came back.
I still like 7. You'd still retcon 7?
No, 7 is fine, but like knowing what it led to, like because Carrie Fisher's gone. I don't know that you can do much with post 7 now.
Yeah, I remember leaving the theater because we saw The Force Awakens together, right? Didn't you have a free ticket or something from the toy store? And I remember when we left, I remember saying, "I'm fine with this, but Luke better not. He better have a good fucking reason as to why he's on that island. He has to have a good reason." I said that when we were walking out, and fucking Ryan Johnson.
Yep.
What the hell, dude? What the hell? Borp, tell me. And don't say Donald Duck, because we already know Donald Duck. But what's the big sort of media thing that you guys love to follow up there in Sweden?
Oh, jeez.
I know I come with the hard-hitting fastball.
I mean, it's just the same. It's just the same as you guys. It's like Star Wars, Marvel, like it's the exact same.
I love that American culture has permeated into Sweden.
Yeah.
Jeff says that Force Awakens is bad, but we just went along for the ride and accepted it.
Here's the thing. Jeff's got some whack takes on a lot of stuff. That's one of them. But we don't need to bash on Jeff all night long. So,
Borp, what do you want to talk about? Like, we have been dominating the conversation.
We have something. Go alpha on us.
I don't know. I'm just tired.
What time is it out there now?
It is. Hold on. 5:47.
Okay, Borp, we got 13 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Top of the hour, we're ending. So you got to come up with our final conversation topic. I will never get.
I'm watching
the
subscriber count go down.
Okay, the Oscars. Has anyone
Ooh.
seen any of the movies?
I saw Oppenheimer.
Okay, I hated
What
it.
else is even
That's a hot
nominated?
take.
You hated it? Wow.
I fucking
Okay.
hated it.
Why?
No, I just hate the way and Christopher Nolan has done this with his latest couple of films. Like I mean, he doesn't edit the film, but like I don't know, the editing just kills it for me. Since Interstellar, like there's just too much going on at all times for me.
Okay. I don't even know
Uh,
what the hell is nominated, honestly. Like, other than Oppenheimer, obviously. Let me look.
Barbie, Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers.
Best film Oscar. I have not seen Barbie.
Okay,
No interest.
I thought it was very good.
Zero interest. I think I have only seen Oppenheimer out of all of these. I have no idea.
Okay, all right.
You see, that's another thing. I used to love the Oscars. That was like appointment television for me. And then at a certain point in my life, I don't know when, probably 10 years ago or so, I just kind of stopped watching all of like the big movies that would come out. That would always, because I'd always watch the nominated movies somehow, some way. Go to the theater, rent it, whatever. And I just kind of stopped, and I dropped off watching it. Same thing kind of with horror movies. We talked about a Serbian film earlier, and that film kind of just set me away from horror for quite a while. Even when we did our sort of 2023 roundup of the best stuff of the year, I had to binge a lot of stuff just to be able to try to have enough content to get it to a top 10. I think, Steve, didn't you say you couldn't even get to a top 10?
No, you had to like stretch it out to things that we watched in 2023, even if they didn't come out in 2023, and then we had to stretch it out to games.
Yeah. So it's weird. It's like there is an infinite amount of content out there, but how many are we actually consuming less content than we did in the past? Maybe that's an interesting question.
I am consuming less individual items, but because I am a gamer, I spend more time with a fewer number of things. I'm always doing something, but I'm playing Fallout 76, or I'm like 60 hours into Final Fantasy VII right now and not done yet. So I mean, that might just be a gaming thing, but fewer items, more time into individual items.
I feel like you kind of have to pick your hyperfixation. You can't consume it all. So like, I don't watch TV. I haven't watched a TV show in like 2 years. But
not even like on a streaming service or anything?
No. Okay, that's actually not. I did watch Beef last year. That was the only television series I watched last year, and that was very good. That was on Netflix.
Yeah, I think Rachel was saying that was a really good show.
Yep, that was really good. But yeah, I don't watch TV. I watch movies, and I don't really play all that many video games either. So like, I just very much focus on.
I'm definitely not a gamer. Like I rarely play video games, and it's just kind of funny because the running joke is, why don't you get a PlayStation 5? You can play Spider-Man 2. You all know how much I love Spider-Man. Look it. I don't have the drive to go out and get a PS5 just to play Spider-Man 2 or play any games really for that matter. I know Ronan gives me shit because I love God of War. I could be playing the new God of War game. Nope. Don't care. Not really interested because I'm just not a huge gamer.
Yeah.
I don't play video games for stories. I play them just to sort of like turn my mind off because I do have ADHD, and it's very difficult for me to play, especially these big open world games, trying to keep track of a story when I'm running around doing random shit for 2 hours and then trying to get back to a story and back and forth. When I consume a story, I have to be like hyper focused on it. Right? Like I'm engaged with it and I'm getting it all sort of back to back to back. Video games I find very difficult to do, at least open world video games that I play. Even that first Spider-Man, a big open world. So yeah, there's a story going on there, but I'm going off. I mean, Steve's seen me go chase the shinies. I just run off and and all of this stuff. My brain does not focus well, so I just play video games to have fun, shoot things, and not think too deeply about stuff. That's kind of my video game outlet. And I would say, like, if it hadn't been for Outpost Unknown and us sort of watching things, like specifically setting times to watch movies and television shows and do that kind of stuff, I don't think I'd be watching a whole lot of stuff. I think I'd be more in Steve's camp, where it's just a few things. Like maybe I'd watch a television show. Like we started watching Justified, right? And there's like 7 seasons of it, so you would just watch Justified each night or something. So,
Right.
yeah. But I do think I'm consuming less than I did when I was younger, for sure. Even though there's more out there, which might be an interesting mental thing to think about at some point.
This cast has just been all about the differences between Matt and I, because Matt knows how much I focus on the story and things, which is why he makes me Plodicus through everything that we do.
This is true. This is true. And what I would think is great, and I love you dearly, Steve. I would take a bullet for you. And I think
but you wouldn't talk about the news with me.
No, that's absolutely true. You need to respect my decision, friend. What I think is so great is that, and this goes for all of us, in our friend group. We can have such disparate views on things and differences. We would be complete opposite people in so many ways, and yet we can love and respect each other and not hate each other for being the way we are. So it's one of those great things that I don't think people really sort of, when you find a friend, it's so hard for people to find like a really solid friend group of people that they can trust, that they adore dearly, and that they would do anything for. And to sort of sit back every once in a while and just think of all the paths that your life has taken. Like, for example, Steve, there's an infinite number of universes and multiverses out there where you never came to Nebraska, you never met Amy, and I never met you, and we never created any of these movies or had all these fun experiences. But just think about, like, how, like, the sublime of it all, of being able to sort of encounter these people and so many of them being good people. Because so often people out there that you run into the wrong people and your life goes a completely different way. We're very lucky. We're very, very lucky. And you as well, Borp.
Yeah.
Cherish the fact that we met each other playing Left 4 Dead, or listen to
Yeah,
our old
yeah,
podcasts that
yeah.
we won't do. Those are all great times, and as we get older, we should definitely reflect on them and cherish those moments.
And you should get a PS5 so you can continue to do those things with us as technology marches on, because we're going to need a 4th for Helldivers 2 when we start playing that. And also, I'm going all in blind on this next hand.
I can't. If I'm not going to buy one for Spider-Man and God of War, I'm not going to buy one for Helldivers 2.
Looks awesome. That's all I'm saying.
Not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen.
Eventually, your PS4 is going to die, and you'll have to get one to keep gaming with us.
Maybe I'll just buy another PS4.
Why?
Well,
so it
why
can
not?
die too, because it's old.
Do they not sell new ones anymore? Are they not
I
still
don't
making
know.
new PS4s? Okay, I'm going all in blind.
Helldivers 2. Oh, that's bad.
Oh, we got the exact
I have the same hand.
Steve. So
Dang,
we gotta
I
go
used to!
all blind one more time.
What is going
this
on?
This can't be the end. Not like this. Not like this. Ace King Jack. What is happening?
Give me an 8 or a 7. Okay.
We can't end on this. We can't end on
What do
this.
you mean we can't end on this?
No,
all right, Matt
we can't
says
end on
Matt says we're going all in blind again.
Okay.
all in blind again, Borp. I busted. I gotta go back.
I gotta win.
We gotta go back in. We gotta buy back in for
All right.
one more hand.
All right,
Okay.
Borp, are you in for Helldivers? Because I believe Ronan is in.
Yeah, sure.
You
Looks
guys
like
have fun. You guys have great fun.
Okay,
I will
when
watch your
We will
videos.
Cherish the
When-
times we have together.
when you I looked at my hand. Oh, you guys aren't in this. I looked at my hands. That's
No.
fine. When your PS4 dies, it's time to get a used PS5 so you can join us. and have like modern day loading times on your games.
What if I don't even like the game?
You will. It's fine. You won't like the company.
Pitch me. What is I don't even know what the game is, honestly.
It's Starship Troopers, but it's 4-player co-op.
Oh, like you're just going around killing bugs?
Yep.
For democracy.
Why don't they just put the Starship Troopers skin
I
on
think
it
what's
and-
funny is I think they actually, like, another company was actually like developing a Star Troopers game, and this game just completely stole their thunder.
Okay. I don't even think I've seen any real footage of it at all. I mean, I've scrolled through YouTube and I see thumbnails of people raving about it.
It looks awesome. I'm grabbing it as soon as I'm done with Final Fantasy. All right, I'm just gonna come on, get me out of this hand. You guys fold or do something. Okay, I'm folding.
What's the first Helldivers?
It's a PS4 game.
Oh, sweet!
Is that what we do? While everyone else is going to Helldivers 2, all of us get Helldivers 1.
It might have been a PS Plus game at some point.
Oh, I'm looking this up. I'm going to look this up right now. Helldivers.
So
that would be incredible if I had it on PS Plus.
That one's like top-down asymmetrical thing, and the sequel is like third person. It's like bigger budget.
Helldivers Helldivers PS4. Let's see.
Come on.
All right, going all in blind to this next hand.
All right.
And then we will finally end this terrible stream.
This was a great night. I don't care if the two viewers didn't like this conversation. I got a lot out of this conversation, and this has been very fruitful.
Yeah.
These are friends talking. We don't have to talk about. We don't have to always be sarcastic and joking with each other constantly. We can have real conversations about how we feel about shit.
It helps that Rowan's in here.
Yeah, it does help that Ronan's not here.
We love you, Ronan.
Yes.
Where the fuck is that guy? Where was he?
I don't know.
Oh right. Wait. Wait. Can I cancel out of this?
What did you look?
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
God!
it's too late now.
Let me.
Well,
I just folded.
I've already gone all in. Like, okay,
Now you're gonna have to-
Jesus Christ.
See,
What did I
Bork,
have?
You,
All right, well,
you
I
brought
folded.
this on yourself.
I shouldn't have. Okay, because I'm raising by 100.
Oh, well,
Oh
we
my
folded,
God.
so get out of
You
here.
just folded. Bork.
Yeah. Well, I can't. It's not letting me like cancel out of this.
Is that your butcher knife next to you, Borp? Is that what you got
No,
there?
I think that's the divorced dad's next to me.
Okay.
It's an apt description.
I'm gonna win this hand.
Borp's gonna bust out again. Oh god, the hand is only worth 1,000. He bet 8. So if he busts out again, we're gonna have to wait another round for him to buy back in.
I'm gonna win.
You're gonna win. Just have some faith in your friend, Steve.
I don't.
He's gonna win.
I don't.
He's gonna win. Come on, Borp, you got this. Got this.
I'm going all
What are you doing? What are you doing? Okay. Oh, okay. Here we go. Okay. Well, he's got an 8.
Oh, he's got ace-9.
Oh,
Oh, he needs a
look
4
at
to the other
this.
guy needs a 4
Look
to
at
win.
him raising his hand, saying, "This is over." Look at that shit.
All right, good job.
Okay. Well done. Hold on. I'm going to emote
Okay,
here. I'm going to emote my clap.
Not gonna
There we
look
go.
at the cards this time.
Yeah. Do not look. Here we go.
See, Borp could have just not told us that he looked at those cards, and he might have won.
Well,
I also
friends don't lie to one another,
Yeah.
Steve.
Okay, so
Got very quiet, very serious.
Oh, yeah, this is real serious.
What is this mutant at the table here? What is wrong with that man's head?
God, it does look. He looks mutant-esque. You are correct. Okay, raise all in. Putting it right out there. Don't you be looking at that pistol like you're gonna shoot me in the head. Dun, 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 dun.
We're all very tired, and we just want to go to bed.
I have a buddy who's got a podcast, and one of his co-hosts is a girl in France, and he always shows different movies and to get her opinion on it. And he showed her the Terminator, and they did an episode on the Terminator, and she hated it. She thought there was no redeeming value in the original James Cameron Terminator movie at all.
That should have been our
hilarious.
topic for movies that are unassailable that people question anyway.
There you go. Yeah, we'll
Too late.
We'll touch base
Too
again,
late.
folks.
All right,
Down
6.
the
All
road,
right, I
down
see a
the line.
6.
I see a 7, buddy. Oh boy,
Boo.
what's happening?
Boo.
Give me another 7. Give me another 7.
Hell yeah.
Oh fuck!
Boo! Boo! Boo!
Sweden beat
Boo.
America?
Borden, you won. Final thoughts. So we're about to leave.
This has been nice. I zoned out when we talked about Star Wars for like 30 minutes, but other than that, it's been
You
great.
should have just taken a nap while we were talking about Star Wars, and we could have played another hour.
And with that, I am done. Thank you for listening. Good night. Bye. All that jazz.